culture. A white Minnesota woman allegedly calls a black autistic child a nigger.
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child 5-year-old a nigger, the N-word.
If that's what he's gonna act
That's what you're gonna call him.
In the heat of the existing online friction around race and American culture, one side of the mob attempted to dox the Minnesota woman, and the other side, claiming to be fed up with black violence and bullying, collectively raised over $500,000 for the woman. But what has given rise to this friction in our modern culture? Some blacks blame Trump and the so-called MAGA movement.
This is what they want, make America great again. Mm-hmm. He's trying to make do on that promise in the minds of his most poor and his most uneducated members. This emboldens racists.
Are the blacks who make this claim living in denial?
America is a racist country. It is!
America systemically, structurally is a racist country.
Is it actually they who have gone too far with their never satisfied disposition, thus invoking an increased irrational reactionaryism from a segment of the white population?
America is racist. AF.
And an even deeper question, are the blacks who are the most vocal in telling America how racist it is, emboldened by the fact that they were made a protected class by Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement?
White America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. That is one thing that other immigrant groups haven't had to face.
Speaking of King, he also had an unfortunate experience with a white woman.
When I was about 8 years old, I was in one of the downtown stores of Atlanta, and all of a sudden someone slapped me, and the only thing I heard was somebody saying, "You are that nigger that stepped on my foot." It turned out to be a white lady.
Martin Luther King, of course, went on to help pass legislation which effectively solidified blacks as a protected class. It instilled in black culture a spirit of unsatisfiable search for so-called progress.
100 years later, the Negro still is not free.
Was the spirit demonstrated by Stephen A. Smith in his discussion with Brandon Tatum?
There's a lot of black people that don't see progress when they think about Trump. The Democratic Party has had the black vote for the most part since the 60s. It's given them a license to take us for granted, and it's given the right a license to ignore us because they assume they wouldn't get our vote anyway. Therefore, we're the ones without representation.
Brandon Tatum had an interesting and respectful conversation on Stephen A's podcast.
There's nowhere else on planet Earth black people can go and benefit and prosper and have a level of success than in the United States of America.
Overall, the conversation was good, but was it missing something that both sides of the political spectrum miss as a result of denying facts about the civil rights movement? Lastly, if we have time at the end of the show, I'll show you a never-before-seen clip from my upcoming documentary. Right now, I'm cutting through the culture.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Culture. We are definitely doing a culture cutting episode tonight. I am one of your hosts, Keisha King Benton, and we're talking about Shiloh Hendricks and her recent comments to a young little black kid, and Brandon Tatum on Stephen A. Smith. So my thoughts on this whole Shiloh Hendricks debacle, I really don't care. I really don't. I don't know. I feel like part of me, here's this lady holding her kid. I don't care what color she is, holding her kid, saying all types of foul language in front of her little baby. So for whatever else came out of her mouth, I wasn't surprised. Okay, if you would use that kind of language in front of your own kid, I'm not looking for you to, be the most upstanding person in front of other people's kids. Okay, so it really was not a big deal to me. However, since she has gone on to raise this money, and we have the Carmelo Anthony thing, I think some white folks are like, I can't say anything in public about feeling put upon by the Black folks, but I can anonymously donate this money. And I honestly don't think that people are donating because they are racist. I think they're donating because they're sick of Black people bothering them and accusing them of, being racist. Every time, they happen to catch somebody, Black people want to catch them saying a little something that they didn't like, cancel them, put them on blast, make them lose their jobs. I think white people are like, yeah, we're through with that. So I'm gonna donate. It's kind of maybe a little bit of a coward way to push back, but it is pushing back. Anyway, those are kind of my preliminary thoughts. But let me bring up the crew and see what they think. I'm just gonna go ahead and bring everybody up and get the discussion popping. Hello, Mr. Chad O. Jackson.
Hey.
Hello, Mr. Blanchard Robinson.
What's going on?
And God bless you. And hello, Chuck.
Hello, man.
All right. So, Blanche, I'm itching to know what you think about this Shiloh Hendricks woman cussing, calling the little Black kid the N-word. All right. Let's don't bring the Aryan superhero out. Not yet. Okay.
Man, bring it out. In the phone booth. Don't step in the phone booth and
No, I mean, I just think that she's an adult. It's a child. I mean, I don't think, to me, it's not really the N-word more than it's just it's a child, and you should probably talk to the parents maybe. But I mean, I don't condone what she did. However, I understand white people are being forced to walk on eggshells, and it's ridiculous. At the end of the day, somebody told me today, somebody said that my entire life, I've said all kind of racial things about white people, and I've never had a Black person tell me, don't say that or that's wrong. He said my entire life. He says, so that lets me know that I've seen white people, when somebody racial says something, or somebody white says something racial, every white person in the area doesn't agree with them. White people chime in and say, don't say that, that's wrong. So I don't know. I just think that Black people talk so crazy and they're so brazen, and they have the media on their side, and they have Hollywood on their, like it's so much power behind what Black people are doing. Yeah. Till it's almost like white people are just getting frustrated and fed up. The frustration that Black folks claim to have is not really true, because white folks don't bother Black people. They just don't. Black people go out of their way to go to an establishment that's all white and proceed to hop on the table and start twerking. And then the moment the white person says, get off the table, it's racism. So yeah, I don't agree with what the lady said. I don't agree with the lady, talking to the child like that. Yeah. However, but Black people have put white people in this position where they have to be perfect. They're almost like at a godlike level, to where a white person can't get frustrated. They can't have a bad day. They can't be tired of Black people. White folks are being forced to just sit there and take it every single day. And then when a white person is about to go to bed and laying down and cut the TV on, it's somebody Black on TV blaming them for their problems in their life. So at the end of the day, it's just, I don't know. I understand their frustration. I do. And Black people are becoming increasingly obnoxious, increasingly irritating, increasingly flagrant. Like, Black people are getting out of control, especially since Trump got in office. And so at the end of the day, this white woman can't pay for the sins of every white person. This is what Black folks are doing. Anytime a white person does something, Black folks make it go viral. Meanwhile, Pookie and Ray Ray are spinning the block every single day. Dead bodies everywhere, abortions everywhere, STDs, kids can't read, and Black folks ain't saying nothing. So yeah. I don't agree with her, but I understand.
Teach him, Chuck. What do you think? Did you see the clip?
Did I see the clip?
Uh-huh.
I saw it just then. Yeah, and I caught some fleeting moment. I saw the story. That some woman that called some Black kid at a park nigger or nigga. I don't know how she pronounced it. It really doesn't matter.
I think it was it was the ER, the hard R.
Yeah, okay. My first
Hey, my
reaction,
nigga,
Keisha, was,
can I borrow a tater tot?
A tater tot.
right.
Or borrow a French fry. Was it a French fry or a tater tot? I can't remember.
She
Go
said
ahead,
the
Ted.
little boy had went in her diaper bag and took something out of her diaper bag. And that's what prompted her to call him a name.
Right. Well, yeah, I like you, Keisha. This type of stuff doesn't move me. I'm not, I couldn't have cared less. I'm not offended when I hear a white person say that, whether it be in person or they say it to me. I mean, you gotta understand. I mean, if a person is trying to offend you, then you're in a situation where you've upset them or they've upset you for whatever reason. And typically, when this kind of aggression is interracial, the first thing that gets pointed out is the race of the offending party, of the opposite party. I mean, black folks do this constantly. I mean, the first thing that comes out of their mouth when they're upset at a white person for whatever reason is to, use a racial epithet or just to point out the fact that they are white. This white motherfucker, this white boy, this punk ass white dude, this white lady, and so on and so forth. And so I couldn't have said it better than Blanche. And I again, Keisha, I agree with you. I don't care. Why am I bothered by this? I remember what rapper was it? Some couple of years ago, some black rapper was performing, and he picked a white fan out of the crowd and brought him on stage, and they
Kendrick
started.
Lamar.
That was
Kendrick Lamar. Okay, well, yeah, we'll see. That's goes to show how much I pay attention. And I guess it got to the point where Kendrick says "nigga," and the white guy either said it or was about to say it, or something. The girl's a girl. Oh shoot,
No,
yeah.
she said it. She said
Okay,
it.
she said it. And then there was this huge uproar. Hope she made it home that night. There's a lot of black folks in the crowd, but that type of
Kendrick himself, like Kendrick stopped the music. He made this
what a
visually embarrassed
disgusting.
her.
To sit up there and grandstand. I mean, what a low life punk move. And it's again, I don't care. I mean, I guess we have to talk about these kinds of things. I mean, we're reacting to the broader, I guess, conversation that's being had, or just from the reaction to this moment that has gone viral is what we're reacting to. But it's funny, Keisha. There's not a cell in my body that gets excited when I hear a white person use the N-word. It's like, all right, say whatever you want to say, but if you're upset at me, then cross that line. You know what I mean? Put your hands on me, and then we're gonna settle up. We're gonna settle it. But other than that, but you can say what you want to say. And like to Blanche's point,
ever been called the N-word?
I've never been called the N-word by a white person and to my face. But I've been in multiple situations where I've had black friends who have, it's one thing to have a disagreement with another human being, but black folks, when it's a white person, to all the white listeners out there, there's a special kind of, it's a special kind of, you can sense it. I hate to kind of sound like one of these, how it is, especially with the race hustlers. They think that they can, they're damn near able to read minds because they can sense racism even when you're too stupid to perceive it, because I guess they're the trained experts, right? So they can see. But I get this. I've gotten the sense many a times in my life when I've seen conflicts, interracial conflicts, black folks that I know that have gotten into it with white people that I know, the special kind of anger that blacks have, towards whites. And I told you, I shared the story with you guys about the Indian kid Ahmed from my neighborhood, who we tortured and picked on because he wasn't one of us. He wasn't black. And, again, no matter how hard he tried to fit in, if he tried to fit in, we didn't like him because he was a phony trying to be something that he wasn't. And if he excluded himself or secluded himself, well, we didn't like him for that either, because, he didn't want to try to interact with him. So it was a very, very precarious situation for someone in his position. So I know what that feels like. I know what that's like. And when Blanche says that, it has to really get under the skin of a white person. When you go home, as Blanche said, and you look on television. I mean, everyone knows. We know who the troublemakers are. We know that Black culture, Black folk. We know that Black folks have a violence problem. They have an aggression problem. They have a
Can you
crime
say
problem.
that? Are you allowed to say that, Chuck?
Exactly. Well, it's funny because if I'm allowed to say it, maybe they'll call me names, they'll call me a sellout or something or another. I mean, who knows? But I guess when a white person says it, I guess there's a whole separate set of consequences that comes along with that. But it has to be very maddening and frustrated that you know the truth, but you can't say it. And to your point, Keisha, when you say that maybe this is their way of communicating all of the GoFundMe dollars that she's raised. It's like, I may not agree with what you said. It's certainly wrong for you to essentially pick on a child, so especially an autistic child. But maybe she didn't know the child was autistic, so that's no here nor there. But it's like, I don't agree with what you did, but the cancel stuff, somebody's picking on your 5-year-old child, and you say the first thing that comes to mind that you think is going to hurt that other person. Right? A white person gets upset at you. They want to call you the N-word because they know it'll hurt your feelings. They may not have this just broad opinion about Blacks. They hate all Blacks. It's like, no, they just mad at you right now. You're Black and they're upset with you. And so if they call you the N-word, who knows? But again, it's just in that moment, they're just upset with you. And oftentimes, again, when you have these interracial conflicts, that's the first thing a person wants to bring up, the race of the opposite party, because they know it will offend them. They know it will upset them. And who knows if it has anything to do with race when it's all said and done. They're just angry with you in that moment. And so that's why I'm just like, whatever, man. I mean, she wasn't talking to one of my kids. What am I supposed to do?
Hey, Chad, if that would have happened to one of your kids, what would you have done?
Well, I was talking to my wife earlier after church about this situation because she didn't know about it until I had mentioned it to her, because she asked what we were talking about this evening. And I told her, well, we're going to be talking briefly about this whole Shiloh Hendricks situation. And to Chuck's point, it's not so much that we are going over the details of what happened or what transpired in that little kerfuffle, because for one, we don't know the details. I mean, we hear allegedly that the kid was autistic, but that could be a lie, right? So it's not so much that we're reacting to or to what transpired in the moment as much as we are about the kind of overall debate that's going on in our culture, and how this is kind of just yet another thing that that I guess proves a point depending on what side of the quote unquote debate you're on. But to the extent that the kid may have been autistic, I was talking to my wife and I was saying, it's a situation where this woman is clearly in the wrong for speaking to a 5-year-old in that way. That just shows that this is a woman who lacks self-control, who lacks discernment. So she was wrong, obviously. It goes without saying for what she did. I feel that the guy who recorded her and tried to make her go viral and tried to accuse her of a hate crime was in the wrong. I believe that the mob on the internet was in the wrong to dox her. I believe, to Keisha's point, that the people who are raising money and everything because they are trying to show how they stand in solidarity and X, Y, and Z. Like, I mean, find a better cause. But when it comes to the parents of the 5-year-old, I think that you don't really see a lot of commentary in this debate as it pertains to them. And if I had a child who was autistic or who was severely on the spectrum, it would stand to reason that if you're going to take them into a public space, and what their tendencies are, then the onus is kind of on you as their parent to ensure or to keep a watchful eye, or to keep them ever in your peripheral to make sure that they're not going into people's stuff, especially if that's something that that particular child is known to do. Now, if you are a parent who has an autistic child, you have 3 other children, and one of the children are, have your attention, so you're preoccupied with that, and something happens. I mean, you can't be omniscient, but at the same time, you would hope that adults would have enough judgment or better judgment to resolve a situation before it ever gets to, now we're talking about it on the internet. And when it comes to, those of you who are white folks and who feel as if you've been put upon and all your life, you felt like you've had to walk on eggshells around Black people and the bullying and the violence and everything else. And now, we're just fed up. We're done, as as Nick Fuentes said, we're just done. Like if that's you,
over, man, we're done.
if you feel as if like you're just kind of fed up, you're done, and you're listening to the likes of Nick Fuentes and others, if you are somebody who doesn't know the Lord or who rejects Christianity, then I'm not talking to you. But if you're someone who claims to be a Christian, claims to be a follower of Christ, my warning to you is to not be so caught up and swept up in this debate that's raging, which I think the devil has his hands all over. You're being asked to pick a side. You're being asked to kind of to go along with a certain agenda one way or the other. That is not going to bode well for the society, for one, but for your soul in the grand scheme of things. Keep your eyes ever on the Lord and don't get caught up in this nonsense, because the whole purpose of it, the whole purpose of this friction is to invoke a kind of irrational reactionaryism. And if you do feel like you're being persecuted by the woke mob, I'll just remind you of this scripture from Matthew chapter 5. If you do feel like that Blacks have set themselves up against you as your enemy and they are coming after you because of what you believe in terms of wanting to preserve Western civilization, in terms of wanting to live out your Christian faith, I'll just remind you of this verse, this chapter 5, Matthew chapter 5, and I'll tell you to be encouraged. But starting at verse 43, you've heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends his rain to the just as well as the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? You therefore must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. And of course, that last sentence, people are sure to say, well, I can't be perfect. I'm in the flesh. I'm a human being. Well, thank God we have Christ, the intercessor, who advocates on our behalf at the right hand of God. But the difference is you have a contrite heart. You have you actually have remorse for having sinned, for having gave way to sin, for having gave way to evil or wicked thoughts. There's always going to be sin amongst us, and that sin is going to manifest itself in many different ways, whether you want to call it racism or bigotry or whatever the case may be. I don't get so caught up in the kind of sin as much as I do in the fact that we, by nature, are sinful. We are separate from God because of our sin, but it's only Christ who reconciles us back to God. And it's not a display of the fruit of the Holy Spirit when you get caught up in these kind of debates where you're raging against people because of their skin color, and then you give way to this ideology or this mindset of, well, white people were superior and Blacks are not because they're genetically inferior because of X, Y, and Z. That's not the Bible. That's not the Bible at all. But you see this kind of thing, this kind of rhetoric growing, and I would venture to say that a good number of the people who've given money to this woman, and I kind of feel for her because of the fact that her social security number and things of this nature have been doxed to the public.
Oh my gosh.
And so this is the mob. This is what this is all of this is a result of sin, a result of Shiloh's sin, a result of the sin of the person who wanted her to go viral, the guy with the phone talking about you've committed a hate crime. It's all indicative of man's sinful disposition. And I think it will be malpractice for us. And thankfully, nobody who spoke thus far on this panel tonight has recklessly gave commentary on this subject or on this particular topic. But I would just tell you whether you are tempted to join the side of this side of the mob or that side of the mob, just repent and remember the scriptures. Or remember the Holy Scriptures, because only Christ has the words of eternal life.
Amen. I do wonder, where was the parents of the child? Like, as the boy looked like he was out there by himself, and it's said that man who was reporting, has child abuse charges, well, just underage child abuse charges. And why was you at the park if you do? So, I mean, there's a lot of questions. Why you just out there rolling that it wasn't his kid. So what you doing? Your kid ain't, like, where your kids? Why you at the park? So
I'm gonna just
I don't know.
if I'm just putting myself in that position, if I were there, I've never once in my life, and I know camera phones, that can record, have been a thing for a long time now. I have never once been anywhere and saw anything and said to myself, "Ooh, let me record this." So this is a total aside. It doesn't even cross my mind to reach for my pocket and throw a camera on and capture something, or throw a camera in someone's face. That type of stuff, it never crosses my mind when I'm out and about doing my daily business. It never crosses my mind. Never crosses my mind. But I didn't know that about. So you said that's the rap sheet on the guy who did the recording.
Supposedly, that's not
allegedly. Okay. Oh well, yeah.
So we'll see what happens. And I don't want to stay on this part for too long, but what we do see from the right is the people who are responding to this, that's on the right, and they're kind of giving like, like that's because we're tired of it. Like, you're kind of going down that don't make the mistake to sometimes you can go so far that you will end up doing the same thing that the people you claim that you don't like. You can go so far that you can end up being woke right, because you're doing that. You're taking a group of people, you are putting a label on. You can do the same exact thing. So just be careful. That's how sin does. That's why God told us. He said, "Such were some of you," because we all have the ability to to do all of these things that we claim that we don't like. We all have the ability to do it. So we all need to be careful, making sure that we don't end up on that. Making sure that we feel God's good graces and not worrying about.
The thing is, Keisha, I've seen a couple of posts from Black folks, and I think we have to kind of speak to this side too very briefly. But I've seen a couple posts from a couple of Black folks who've said something to the effect of, "Well, I've noticed since this whole Shiloh Hendricks situation, Black conservatives have been real quiet, right?" And what they are insinuating is that, see, y'all voted for Trump, y'all are MAGA, and now look at white folks. They are like digging into and embracing their whiteness, and where does that now leave you as a Black conservative who've spent all this time caping for white folks, who've swore up and down that America is not a racist country? And these are the same people who, if you look at their track record, that's all they say. That's all their rhetoric is. America's racist, 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 racist. And so if you call somebody racist for so long, if you call somebody a bigot for so long, ultimately that dam will break and they will show you just how much of a racist they are. And so for me, it's like, it's not so much, and I know that the you guys will have to forgive me those of you in the chat for the thumbnail, because I honestly didn't know what to put in the thumbnail. And I don't even blame Martin Luther King. Call it a bait and switch, if you will. But the whole point is to spark conversation. I think that what King represents and what the civil rights movement represents is taking a group of people, making them a protected class, and then seeing what happens. And what we're seeing happening right now when it comes to all the Blacktivists and the Blackameditions and all these different people who make a living, the Elie Wiesels of the world, make a living telling you just how racist you are, and they flaunt it, right? They are enjoying all of the luxuries of living in America while at the same time calling white Americans in particular racists. And so these are the same people who are saying, see, we told you, look at Shiloh, look at Nick, look at this person, look at that person. And they're trying to say all of this is indicative of the fact that y'all elected Trump. It's his fault. And they have no blame. They take no blame in pushing people over the edge. All their rhetoric over the years,
right?
Since the 1960s and before that point, even that has nothing to do with it. It's just Trump. That's all. That's all. Right. So I'll be remiss if I don't mention that piece of it. Like you can't accuse people of being a racist for 60, 70, 80 plus years and think that they're just going to kind of like that they won't at some point break is the point that I wanted to make.
Well, Chad, let me defend, if I may. Keisha, you're about to say something. Let me just chime in. Let me defend you, Chad, or defend the thumbnail, if I may. Because you played a clip where King says that people have to realize, he may have even singled out whites, I can't recall, but he said that blacks are the only group of folks, immigrants, whatever word he used to describe blacks, that were slaves on American soil. Right? Blacks were the only group of people who have been slaves in this land. And so we have a very unique way, a very unique experience in this regard. And so when you fast forward to the new left in the cultural Marxists of the 1960s, one of the major strains, of course, of the cultural Marxist brigade during that time was the writings and the theories of Derek Bell, right, the founder of critical legal studies. And this is where critical race theory comes from, so they say, right? And so he and others who thought like him believed, and this is quintessentially Marx or Marxian, and that is this belief, of course, that it goes back to something Vladimir Lenin once said when he said that as far as morality is concerned, communists do not believe in a morality that proceeds from the supernatural, right? Morality, as he understands it, is kind of like this fluid, pragmatic thing that is, or something or some act, some mode of conduct or means of conduct is moral for the moment, in a sense that it can help to benefit class interests, right? And that class, of course, being that of the proletariat, right? And so one's sense of what is right and wrong, one's sense of morality it's imparted in a person based upon their standpoint, right? Their own subjective point of view as a member of a particular class. And as a member of an oppressed class, right, being that you are a Black person, your perception of morality, your perception of right and wrong is completely different from someone else. Because to go back to King, you have a unique experience, right? Within scholarship, a popular term they use for it is something called standpoint epistemology, right? How is one's knowledge gained, right? It's from your own particular point of view. And so when we have these ideas embedded within Western civilization of this notion of equal protection under the law, where therein lies the farce, because everyone cannot be held to an equal standard of law when one group is more prone to break the law given their status as a group of folks who are disadvantaged. And because they're disadvantaged, they see right and wrong in terms completely different from that of their oppressors. So in other words, they cannot be held accountable for their actions in the same way, because in a sense, they're a different kind of people. And because their status as an oppressed group gives them these superior moral claims. And because they have these superior moral claims, they then get to, in a kind of a la carte fashion, pick and choose what laws they want to abide by versus which ones they want to discard. And so that's where the sense of, well, entitlement, I can do what I want, say what I want, right? It's like payback in this regard, right? And I think that King and people like him, all of the social justice movements, the activists of the 20th century and prior to and on into the 21st century, they have a heavy role in this. I think the blame, a lot of the blame, can be laid directly at their feet when you tell people stuff like this. Most certainly.
I
So
agree with that, Chuck. I guess what I was saying in terms of like apologizing for the thumbnail, as far as, because I didn't know what else to come up with. I was speaking more so to the fact that I don't think that King and the civil rights movement bear the blame solely. I think that they are largely responsible for this kind of this fact that you've now solidified blacks as a protected class, and now blacks continue to fall back on that each and every time something doesn't go their way, each and every time they want to clout chase in the public or in politics or whatever the case may be. You know, when King said, to the point that you made earlier, that, oh, the Negro is the only group that was a slave on American soil. This is something that people still use to this very day when they're trying to bully in or to get their way. And so it's something like, I mean, just like the Holocaust is something that, like, you know, a certain group of, you know, of secular Jews continue to kind of fall back on this and exploit this. And so it's, I mean, to the extent that you make victimhood kind of your brand, or we are a people who have gone through the quote unquote struggle. I mean, you see them doing this with women even, right? And now the whole LGBT thing, to the extent that you can lay claim to a kind of victim or trauma event or moment that has happened, even if you haven't experienced it. In fact, most times when you haven't experienced it, you then use that as kind of as social as a social commodity, in the overall kind of transaction of power in the marketplace and political discourse. And so I think, and somebody said it eloquently in the comment section whenever I posted the intro on IG, that strong men blame themselves, weak men try to find someone else to blame, right? And so this is why I brought it back to the scriptures. It's important to have conversations about history. It's important to analyze the facts and how they transpired and what gave way to what. It's important to have these discussions, but it's even more important to talk about, you know, what I learned from this and what this says about me and what this says about human nature, and how we must reject the temptation to be let off the cliff, right? How we have to kind of keep our wits about us, and how we have to kind of stay on the straight and narrow. It's very easy to veer to the left or veer to the right, and so we have to look in the mirror. And so that's the point that I'm making. I don't want to blame MLK and leave it at that, as if nothing else is worth looking at, when in reality, like, no, we all need to look in the mirror. And that's the point that I wanted to make.
You're right, but you know, like, King was a proponent of liberation theology, right? And I couldn't help but think about your buddy James Cone when you were covering, of course, you know, My Soul Looks Back, and you know, he's talking about, I think he even used the term white theology. Did he not? Or right? And so you're talking about, Chad, you're talking about white theology, right? When, You know, in the book of Romans, when the Bible says that talks about not succumbing to evil, right? Do not be overcome by evil, but you know, you use love or you use the good, right, to overcome that evil. And talked about how love, as opposed to hatred stirs up conflict. I think it's in the book of Luke, but love can cure all things, or love can cover all things. See, that's the trap. That's the trap, because you can say that, because you can try to disarm a person with love, disarm them with kindness. You'd be surprised, because it does work in a lot of real world situations. When someone is angry and you approach them with kindness, patience, right, and love, it kind of throws them off, because they kind of have this outer body type of feeling where they're like, wow, like I said that, and this person responded to me in energy completely foreign to what I had expected.
That
And
literally happened. Yeah, that literally happened to me the other day when
then
somebody
they
was
realize, like, oh my
yeah.
God, I'm acting like an idiot. And it really disarms them. It
Mm-hmm.
really does. You know, and not said it works every time, but you can really
Yeah.
disarm a person when you just show them how ridiculous they're being, when you
Yeah.
respond with kindness, love, patience, and grace. But when you look at that, of course, from a I guess a macroscopic point of view, of course, that is, you know, that is what in fact allows the status quo to continue, because the entire message of the gospel, of course, is one of hope. And so you deal with the racism and the suffering and the this and the that, right? Because you know that your reward for your faithfulness to God and His Word is not going to come in this life. And so that's just a strand of the entire conspiracy, of course, that is meant to keep you complacent. This is why I'm surprised we didn't cover this at some point, but this is relevant to the conversation. I know Blanche wants to chime in. He's been very quiet. I'll pass it to Blanche in a second. But this kind of reminds me, and Blanche did a lot of content about the pastor, Anthony Mitchell, Pastor Anthony Mitchell controversy. I think this is an Anthony Mitchell controversy, where he had this sermon. He's a popular pastor down in Atlanta, and he had this sermon essentially telling Black folks to be obedient because the Bible tells you to do so. You know, and this became this huge thing. Well, when you tell Black folks to be obedient, when you tell them to do such things as turning the other cheek, or to love your enemies, and if your enemy steals from you and takes from you, the Bible instructs you not to expect something in return. And so there's all these things, and to the average, for a person who is more, I guess, secular or material in terms of the way they
Natural
think.
minded.
Yeah, more there. That's a good way of putting it. To them, that's like, the joke's on you, right? They fooled you. That's just so you wouldn't go out and rightfully take what's yours, because what you don't realize is that all of that heaven stuff in the afterlife they told you about, that ain't real. That's fake anyway. That's a farce. And if you really knew what was really good for you, you would just discard all of that and rightfully take back, what's yours. Take back what's what was taken from you initially. So you can't be a revolutionary and be Christ-minded at the same time. No, those two things don't work.
No, because Christ, he's the ultimate revolutionist. Like he brought the ultimate revolution. He's the ultimate radical.
Right. So
came and
all that stuff Chad is talking about, that's white theology. That's white theology is what someone like King or Cone, or even someone who's not a Christian but still is a liberation theologian nonetheless. Your Louis Farrakhan's of the world. They come in different different religions. They may be, you have the Hebrew Israelites. You have a lot of them. You know what I'm saying? But essentially, what they're talking, this is political theater. This is kind of like this is a revolutionary struggle for control over this earthly, this heavenly kingdom. There's nothing godly or spiritual or redemptive about any of the things that they talk about. All right. And this is all politics. This is a theo-political movement.
It has to be because Christ has already acknowledged that he came to establish his kingdom. So you're trying to overturn that kingdom. That's ultimately what you're trying to. If you're not fighting for God's kingdom, you're fighting for the enemy's kingdom in whatever way, whether it be you are doing it through through the race lens or whatever thing you're trying to prop up that's outside of the kingdom of God. That's the, you're out of the will, and you're not going to beat God's kingdom. Okay. You're not going to beat it. But I had, I put in our group chat that I had an epiphany about, did I say this already on the show about my Martin Luther King epiphany? I don't think I said it, but anyway, if I did, you're about to hear it again. That I had this just one day. I was like, oh, I finally get it. Where
Yeah.
I was like, the Civil Rights Act, it codified oppression.
You
it
did.
actually put into law, you are legally oppressed forever. And that is why, because I was thinking about how Chad and Blanche talk about, kind of this oppression, it's kind of fixed on people. And I was just thinking about it, but it's like, that's why, because the law, our whole system is based on law and order. And here is the law saying you're oppressed. I mean, that is a hard, I know y'all are probably like, yeah, Keisha, we got that like a little while ago. I don't know. It just dawned on me that was the thing. Oppression was codified. And so because oppression was codified, everybody wants to be oppressed in some kind of way now, because now there's benefits to being oppressed. Look, you can raise money. You can, people treat you different. You can say whatever you want. There's benefits to being oppressed. In America, you can do whatever you want to do. And I think, like I said from the beginning, I think we're going to see, if we don't cut this crap out, you're going to see more people start to try to glom on to this victim narrative, because it pays regardless of the side that you're on. But Blanche, anything else you wanted to say?
No, I mean, I just want to say that white people, again, are allowed to be human beings, and they're allowed to sin. They're allowed to be flawed. They're allowed to fall short. They're allowed to do everything everybody else does. So again, the issue is when a white person is doing something wrong, it is put above everybody else's wrong. It's not just that she did something wrong. It's that white people are doing something wrong because she did something wrong. And it's the same thing, no different than black people taking credit for who built the pyramids, or the white guys saying we built America. It's the same thing, just in reverse with white people. If a white person does something wrong, it validates every negative piece of propaganda and programming ever put out. So this white woman, she's not getting this attention because she called the little boy an N-word. She's getting the attention because she is literally, what's the word? She's, I can't think of the word. But she's basically justifying all of the reaction to racism that we see. She's justifying the civil rights movement. She's justifying Black Lives Matter. She's justifying riots and protests. She's justifying everything simply by her saying this word. And when you think about it, Black people say this all the time. White people are getting more bold. They said that back in 2016. Like, they always say that white people are getting more bold. It's always an excuse as to why white people are behaving this way. But I venture to say that everybody that deals with Black folks do the same thing. Every Asian people do the same thing. Indians, like, nobody wants to be a part of what Black folks got going on. So it's not just her. It's just that when Black people are invading these other spaces that are supposed to be neutral spaces, like the park, these public places where we're supposed to come together and act civilly because we're sharing a space, that's when you see these reactions. But any other time, this woman hasn't gone into a Black neighborhood with a megaphone saying, y'all ninjas get off the porch. She didn't do that. She did that. This happened at the park after somebody went into her bag. So again, I can't even call it racism. Like Chuck mentioned earlier, we say things to get under people's skin and to hurt them. That's not racism. If I know a word's going to hurt you, why wouldn't I use the word? I remember one time it was a basketball game, and Montrezl Harrell was the Clippers playing Dallas, and Montrezl Harrell was made a threat to Luka Doncic. He said, you know, white boy, you better watch your mouth, or something, basically talking about his color. Then the media was scrambling to justify what Montrezl Harrell said. But if Luka Doncic had said black boy, it would have been Armageddon. He had to apologize. He would have lost endorsements. So we see there's a double standard here. But again, this goes to quote unquote black believers. White people are allowed to fall short. The Bible says that all have sinned and fallen short of God's glory. So we're not going to put an extra emphasis on white people falling short when black people literally have fallen so short they didn't get off the ground yet. So we have to let white people be human. And that goes for anybody. We're not putting what white people do bad above anybody else's sins and anybody else's wrong. So if white people say the N-word, just chop it up with sin. Just like when y'all call white people all kind of crackers and peckerwoods and all kind of other racial slurs that y'all get no pushback for. Yeah, that's all I had to say about that.
Somebody said, how come we never defend black people? Before we answer that, I didn't realize the whole clip was over here. I'm gonna just play the whole clip so people can see who haven't seen it.
You call him a nigger, the child?
The fuck you talking
Did you
about?
call the child the nigger word?
None of your fucking business.
It is my own business. You call him a nigger? Okay, why don't you have the balls to say it right now again?
Fuck you, nigger.
Okay.
Nigger.
All right, that's what you say.
You don't go digging through people's shit, you dumb fuck.
Nobody dig into your shit.
A little fucking kid just did, you dumbass.
That little kid, you call him a nigger?
Yeah.
The little child?
What if he acts like one, he's gonna...
Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child, 5-year-old, a nigger, the N-word.
If that's what he's gonna act
That's
like.
what you're gonna call him.
That's what he's gonna act like.
You know, that's a hate speech. And you can be recorded for that.
I don't give a shit.
Huh.
Fuck off.
Okay, we'll see about that, what the internet has to say about you.
Okay.
Listen,
to me, I'm looking at the whole situation. Okay, this is, you go to a park that's probably close to your where you live, right? So he's black, the kid is black. I'm sorry, the way she's talking, it don't look like, I mean, y'all don't look like y'all in, the suburbs, okay? You look like you round the way. Everybody look like kind of round the way. And the way she's talking, even how she's talking around her own child, I'm not surprised that she talks like that to another kid. I'm not. I'm sorry. Like when I heard her, how she's speaking, she comes off as a woman, regardless of the color. I don't care what color this woman doesn't, I'm sorry. She's not the best, she looks like she talk like that. Okay. I'm trying to be what? This is an isolated incident. It's around the way. Right. This is how they do over there. That's what I got. This is what they do.
I get it. Keisha, I get a kick out of, I mean, maybe I need to check myself, repent for this, but when I see white folks acting like that, I laugh. Because I'm like, if I'd have been standing right there, I'd have been cracking up laughing like, dude, she don't give two F's about what you're talking about. Like, because again, what's she gonna do to me? She ain't gonna do nothing to me. I'm gonna just sit there. Am I supposed to be afraid of her? Am I supposed to be, oh, here's an angry white woman throwing around the N-word? I would have laughed at her to her face, or just laughed at the whole situation. Because when I see white folks and not giving a, she flipping them off, nigger, it's funny to me. I'm like, because you don't see white folks with them kind of cojones. You don't necessarily see it. Now, would she have done that if it was a bunch of black folks standing around? Who knows? But I don't know, man. When white folks act bold like that, when they ain't intimidated by your bull crap about what, it's just funny to me as a whole aside. But
I've seen black people say worse to their kids. Let me say that.
But my question,
mothers talk to their children way worse.
But my thing, though, Keisha, and you're right. My thing is, it's like, dude, the guy behind the camera, I don't know, sounds like maybe he has like a South Asian accent, maybe sounds Indian. I don't know what he is, or Middle East. I don't know what he was. He's Somalian. Okay, I don't know what he was, but whoever this person is, it's like, really, is this really about you trying to expose something, or is it really about you? Is it about
Okay.
this woman? Is it about exposing this great evil that seeks to take us over, the MAGA people or whatever they're talking about online? Or is this about you? Oh, I'm the guy who captured this bad lady doing a bad thing, and I'm going to post it everywhere on social media so that the world can see. Let's start up a conversation. I mean, of course, he's probably going to get lost in the shuffle because everybody is sort of globbing on and latching on to this thing so they can get their own 15 seconds of fame, so they can chime in and give their 2 cents, kind of like maybe what we're doing here. But I'm just saying, like, as far as the initial moment where this gets captured on recording when this is recorded, and I'm just like, I don't know. To me, this is an example of you, sir, trying to use this injustice or whatever. Again, I don't think an adult should be, and I don't know if she did anything to the child besides call the child a name. I don't know if this is going to be one of those things with the child. I remember to give that old story, so like what Dr. King talked about in the clip of how he was random. I don't even know. I know Blanche don't believe the story right there. Blanche don't believe nothing. Dr. King talking about a woman slapped me because she said that I was the black boy who stepped on her shoe. I don't even know if I believe that crap. But I don't know if this autistic black boy is gonna grow up and he's gonna say, I remember that time I was 5 years old at the park and this white lady called me a nigger and it just traumatized me, and I just knew from that moment on I had to, whatever decisions he makes or whatever he does with his life, he's gonna always remember that moment. And so I knew white people were evil from the moment I was 5 years old because some random white lady called me a nigger, right? But this guy recording it, just back to what I was saying, it's just like, dude, this is about you. You want to be the center of attention. You want to be the guy who discovered this racist white woman, and we need to expose her. So what do you think? Black folks, the niggers, gonna come give you a pat on the back? You think they're gonna like you? They think they're gonna be
He
your
did
friend?
go back to
How many
Somalia with all that hate speech stuff because we
yeah,
know
how
I
many?
don't
He
know
said
what
the
he's
N-word
talking
more
about.
than her. He said the
He
N-word
probably
more
says
than
it
she
more than
did.
her. Who does he stay around? Who does he live with? Who are the majority of his friends? Who does he like to, sleep with and do this and do that? What kind of company does he keep? Does he keep the kind of company that would be easily offended by the things said in this so-called video? Who are you trying to impress, my guy? Why
He
you
might
even care?
affiliate with
Why
the
you? I'm not
pirates.
taking out my phone. I'd have been like, man, y'all see this lady tripping, and I'd have laughed and I'd have messed around with a text y'all and told y'all what I saw at the park today. But I'm not finna record it. I say, but this is about you. This is about you. This is not about this woman. It's about you.
That little boy probably hears worse from his dad and his uncles directed to him than that lady. And I mean, I'm just saying, do I think she was right for doing it? No, absolutely not. But I don't think she's right the way she's talking around her own kid. I don't, all of the middle finger. You don't do that around your kids, like let alone somebody else's child. But I don't agree with it. But who knows what happened? And anyway, I'm like parts of it, I'm like, oh, that's wrong. And then parts of it, I'm like, well, I don't know.
That MLK clip.
All right, here we go.
I can remember seeing the Klan actually beat Negroes on some of the streets in Atlanta.
But nobody ever beat you personally?
No, I did have one experience, which was a relatively minor experience, but it still lived with me a good deal. When I was about 8 years old, I was in one of the downtown stores of Atlanta, and all of a sudden, someone slapped me, and the only thing I heard was somebody saying, you are that nigger that stepped on my foot. And it turned out to be a white lady. And, of course, I didn't retaliate at any point. I finally went and told my mother what had happened, and she was very upset about it. But at that time, the lady who slapped me had gone, and my mother and I left the store almost immediately.
Can you remember it?
Stop it. Stop the cap, bro.
So this is my issue, right? So you are in a racist time period in Atlanta.
Stop the cap.
It's racism. So I'm assuming it's probably the 40s, maybe. Let's say it's the 40s. So it's a racist America. You're away from your mother, 8 years old, just wandering around downtown, walking into random stores by yourself, just nobody tending to you, little black boy walking around, no white person bothering you. You just walking around, nobody snatched you up, let you, and then a white lady out of the blue comes by and slaps you and says, "That's the nigga that stepped on my shoe."
What is this after that?
But okay, so let's just say he's telling the truth. If you were 8 years old roaming around downtown, you was probably stepping on people's feet. I'm just saying, you was rambunctious, you was wild. So she probably popped you because you stepped on her foot and you kept moving. She would chase you. Didn't see her chase you. She would chase you the whole time. When she caught up out of breath, she slapped you because you made a run. But listen, we know,
and mothers do. They do that. If you make us like do extra work,
she chased him. You got in and out of stores. She was running behind him, and finally he stopped to steal something, and she caught him. And then she slapped him. But we all know that MLK is lying. And you know he's lying because he said, "Well, I never got beat, but
yeah, that's what I was laughing at."
Something did happen, though. You know, when I was 8, man, stop.
He saw the Klan beat a man, which I don't even believe you saw that. But he said he seen that. He asked, "Well, what about you? What did you expect?" Well, no, but I did. There was this one time.
Look, he gonna say it was a very minor incident, but you know, stop.
Y'all should go back, chat, and watch that entire interview, because that you could tell the interviewer, because he's British, he doesn't believe anything MLK is. He's like, what? That's the same interview, Keisha. That's the same interview, Keisha, where he was like, well, what? The interviewer was like, well, what were you not allowed to do that, or what were that white kids were able to do? He's like, well, I couldn't go and eat a hamburger, a cup of coffee. That's that same interview. Just
that is so pathetic. Like when we hear this, like now, it sounds so pathetic, but it was like so acceptable back. I mean, it's still acceptable now. Like people hear that and they're like, oh, somebody slapped him. He, all he did was step on her bunion, like it's just like this Carmelo Anthony thing where they're like, he just wanted a seat out of the rain. Don't you? Where's your compassion? Thank you, honey. Where's your compassion? Where is it? And I'm like, the dude stabbed somebody. Where was his compassion towards the victim? Like we always want to flip it to the person that, to the victim. If you're black, it doesn't matter what you did to the victim. It just matters that, what color the victim was. That's it. Okay. Because if they're black, nobody cares. But if they're white, where's your compassion for the tent? It's so stupid. It sounds.
You see this comment right here?
There was a what's that old dog?
Let me be real black
went through her purse.
Yeah, that was the trick. He stomped on her foot. She said, "Oh!" Then she went in her purse and took off. That's exactly what he did. That's exactly what King did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a quote. I can't remember who it was, but he was a part of Stalin's regime, one of the top henchmen over there at the time. And there's a famous quote by him when he talks about guilt and innocence. It reminds me of what you just said, Keisha. And I think Stalin, they claim, and this may be an anecdote, because I've yet to find the source of the quote when Stalin allegedly said it. But Stalin allegedly said, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Well, there's another famous another quote, not by Stalin, but by someone else. And he says something to the effect of, we don't concern ourselves with a man's guilt, whether he is guilty or innocent. We simply ask, to which class does he belong?
Was that Herbert Marcuse?
Nah, I don't think that was Marcuse. I think that was someone in Stalin's regime, or may have even been earlier Lenin. I can try to find the source of the quote. Somebody in the chat, if they know it, can throw it in the chat. But the person said again, one of the famous communists of his day. He said that don't worry about a man's guilt or innocence. What will tell you if he's guilty or innocent is the class to which he belongs. If he is the enemy of the proletariat, if he's an enemy of the working class, he's guilty. Right? If you're an enemy of black folks, the black cause, I mean, you could take us. That's all this is. It's just simply race. It's simply race Marxism. All you have to ask yourself is to what race, quote unquote, race does the person belong, and that'll tell you if they're guilty.
Marcuse said something similar. If that wasn't his quote,
He may, yeah.
Yeah. But it's true. I mean, they all kind of think along those lines. It matters not to who the victim is, but like what for Americans, what color were you when you committed the crime?
Real quick on that clip that we watched of MLK. I do believe him about the white lady slapping him, because when he said that his mom was still alive and she could have easily said, what are you talking about? Like, that never happened. So I don't think he would have been so bold to, I don't know, maybe he would have. But the part about him seeing the Klan beat black men on the street in broad daylight, I don't believe that part. I mean, if you're a black man and you're being beat on the side of the street by the Klan in broad daylight, and they're beating you through their sheets and through their hoods, and you're clothed in street clothes, and you're allowing yourself to get beat, I'm sorry, but that's kind of on you, because you're having to fight through the sheet in the hood, and you're still getting the work done on you. So, but I don't know. I don't that part. I don't believe happened. So.
Deborah,
I didn't actually see it though. He told he told his mother he got slapped. He could have been like, she didn't actually see
okay.
it. Yeah, he
That's
told
a
her
good point.
So
that's a good point.
He had to go find his mom, and then he claims that his mom was upset and they were looking for the white lady, and mysteriously they couldn't find her.
That's a good point.
That is a little strange. First of all, back in the day, you're 8 years old. I mean, I guess you could kind of wander away from your parents, but if the racism is so, alive and well, and every corner there's some white person looking to do you harm, why would you be away from your parents?
Yeah,
especially mixed in with white people, like, because apparently you're somewhere where you're amongst white folks. So yeah, I don't know. That story sounds a bit sketchy.
There were race hoaxes back then too, and Chad does a great deal of how to expose a lot of these race hoaxes, and they attack Chad and call him names, talk about his wife. I saw some of that stuff under the post that you made today. Chad was very, very, very disgusting stuff. But yeah, and somebody in Deborah put in a super chat, said that quote was from Lavrenti Beria, and Lavrenti Beria was quite the scoundrel, perhaps the biggest serial rapist the world has ever seen, if you know the story of Lavrenti Beria. So it's an interesting person to look into. He was after Stalin died, Beria was executed by the new regime for being an enemy of the state. How ironic, but not really when you think about communists and how they operate.
Let's get into Brandon Tatum and Stephen A. Smith. So I did not see the clip that you shared yet, but so Brandon Tatum, you guys don't know, he is a political commentator. Stephen A. Smith is a sports commentator, but for some reason, Democrats are considering him to run for president. Because he has been, vocal on some topics and things like that. He's owned the left a couple times, and so he's gained himself this kind of name for calling balls and strikes now. But he is a lefty. I think he should stick stick to sports. But let's just
Yeah.
flip.
There's nowhere else on planet Earth Black people can go and benefit and prosper and have a level of success than in the United States of America. And there are so many corporations and so many lenders and investors that are white that have propelled Black people to a level of success that we've never seen before. I mean, Stephen A., your contract is very handsome. And I don't think that they're treating you improperly because you Black. It's because you earned it.
No,
it's because you went years of being consistent,
right,
speaking your mind, taking the heat, and then you're getting paid.
My response to that would be, that's true. I'm very, very fortunate, but I went through a lot before I got to this point, and it took me significantly longer to achieve what others who look differently than me might have captured sooner. But I do get your point, because I don't sit there and look back, and I don't view every white person as racist, and I don't view every policy as racist. A matter of fact, one of the reasons I've never felt that way about Donald Trump in terms of racism, Nazis, and all of this other stuff is because I knew him before he ran for office, and I knew a whole bunch of us that knew him before he ran for office, and we never said that stuff about him. Neither did Oprah, neither did a whole bunch of other people. There was a whole bunch of people communicating with Donald Trump, befriending Donald Trump, socializing with Donald Trump, and we never had any problem. So I view him as somebody that's catering to a constituency because he knew he wasn't going to win the left. He wasn't going to win the Democratic nomination because that was going to Hillary Rodham Clinton. They would have made sure he didn't win that. So he went the other side, and he, being a businessman, is willing to negotiate his way through anything. That's how I view him, but that's just me.
Oh, God.
First of all, I just want to say, I've been saying that line, Black Americans are the most successful Black people in the entire world since I was on Dr. Phil back in like 2021. So be Tatum, you late. No, I'm just playing. But
He's been saying it too for a long time. He's been saying this since 2016, Keisha, so I think he has you beat.
Whatever.
Keisha just wanted to remind everybody she was on Dr. Phil. That's all.
That too. And was.
It's all good. I know y'all superstars. I call myself the Ringo Starr of the four, so y'all can, y'all the superstars. I'm the afterthought.
No. I mean, we've thought about a lot about these things, and we've probably said a lot of the same things. I'm just messing around. But here's the thing. What I don't get, when Brandon said to Stephen A. Smith, I think that's a great thing to say to people like that who want to play the race card. Well, racism never seemed to stop you from achieving what you wanted to achieve. And it never fails. They always say the same thing. Well, I was the special one. I was able to do this. But all the other Black folks, they weren't able to do it. And so I'm just like, and the other thing is, they'll say, like Stephen A. Smith said, well, I had to go through all of this other stuff, that other people didn't have to go through. I always want to know, like what? Because I promise you, it seems like Black people think that white folk don't struggle. They think like they're born, anything they want, and they want, I don't know, if you are like a 1-year-old and you're white, you can walk into a bank and get a loan. I mean, this is like how they think. It's like they don't struggle. Their whiteness, I mean, they just walk into anywhere, get every job they want. They don't have to interview. They don't have to save money. They don't have to plan for their futures. They don't have to do anything that everybody else has to do. Everything is just given to them. So I don't understand where Stephen A. Smith, working around so many white folks, like he would still say to this day, well, I had to work harder than them, when you don't know everything that they had to go through to get to where they got, just like they don't know everything you had to go through. Why do we think we have this ethnic Gnosticism to know what somebody else went through?
And can we just say this? What if they were just better than you, Stephen A?
Right.
What if they got a faster route because they were better at analyzing sports than you. Black people, for some reason, assume that they are the best at everything. I'm like, most of y'all suck. Most of you all try to cut every corner. Most of you all don't study your playbook. Most of you all don't do the little things. Most of you all want instant gratification when it comes to anything that you all do in life. Stephen A. would make a horrible politician because he's already a horrible sports analyst. His takes on sports are horrible. Stephen A. is not so again, Stephen A., the reason why you are where you are is because you are a personality. It's not for your expertise. You are a personality. You know how to talk loud. You know how to make jokes. That's why you wear funny looking suits. You look crazy shooting a basketball. Like you are more of a mascot than you are of a sports commentator or a person that analyzes sports. So at the end of the day, Stephen A., you saying that it took you longer doesn't mean that it was racism. It could possibly mean that somebody's just better than you. And at the end of the day, we gotta start accepting that. There's somebody just better than you. So I can't look at the next man to my left, my right, and say they did it in 10 years. It took me 20. Oh, it must be racism. I know a grown man. I asked him, I said, well, how many jobs didn't you get because of racism? This man said, I don't know, about 6. I said, how do you know? I said, what gave you? He said, when I walked in, the way they looked at me. Dear black people, dear black people, if you walk into an interview and you think that the people in the interview are not going to hire you, they can see it. If you walk in an interview and you're not confident, they can see it. If you walk in an interview thinking that they're racist, they can see it. The interviewer is looking at you because you don't hide your emotions well. Y'all are very emotional. So when you walk into the room, these interviewers can see that you aren't confident, that you aren't sure of yourself, and you're looking at them to find a fault. And again, when people see that, the first thing that comes to mind is that you're not qualified. If you go into a space and you are uncomfortable, it means you don't belong in the space. So dear black people, if you are uncomfortable with the job you're applying for, then don't do it. Because the moment you step into that interview room and you're sitting crazy, these people are looking at you, body language and everything, just like the police do, just like the detectives do. When y'all in the interrogation room and they see you about to snitch, so they go ahead and get you the hamburger and the fries, so you can go ahead and split up the bean. It's the same thing. So dear black people, if you go into an interview room, you must be confident. And your confidence comes from you actually being qualified for the job. I'm done.
God bless. I was gonna say the exact same thing, bro. It's in Stephen A. Smith's case, it's the opposite. You don't have to work harder because you're black. You work less because you're black. You're coddled because you're black. Stephen A. is a talentless, race hustling hack. I remember the jump the shark moment with Stephen A. Smith when I just said to myself, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I cannot watch ESPN anymore. I was done. And you know, when Skip Bayless left First Take, because I remember when first Stephen A. Smith first emerged on the scene back in the day. You know, he was this young, you know, hot shot, hip kind of he was a different type of a vibe. If you remember Stephen A. early on, and you know, I don't know, this is just par for the course. The longer you stand in business, right, the bloom kind of falls off the rose a little bit. I don't know. He's no longer that guy he was, you know, 20, 25 years ago, certainly. But I remember the jump the shark moment is when Skip Bayless left First Take. They brought Max Kellerman on. Max Kellerman would try to out-black Stephen A. Stephen A., who, he of course, he tried to answer the call because, you know, you're not going to have this, you know, white guy up here. And I think Max Kellerman is of Jewish heritage. You're not going to have him out-blacking Stephen A. Smith. And so he just went into this whole, and I mean, what the hell is Stephen A. Smith talking about? So the moment where I was like, I'm through with him. When Tony Romo retired, for those of you who don't know, Tony Romo was the former starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys before the Dak Prescott era began in Dallas. Right. And Tony Romo, you know, considering the fact that he was the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys during this new era of professional football, where there's a lot more passing and not as much, defenses aren't allowed to do as much in order to, hinder the offense or undermine the passing game and so on and so forth. So the bottom line is why I'm saying all of this is that Tony Romo holds all of the Dallas Cowboys passing records. He owns all of their passing records, but he wasn't a champion like Troy Aikman. He wasn't a champion like Roger Staubach. He just didn't come through in the long run, and the Dallas Cowboys have this expectation as one of the most storied franchise in American professional sports. Is championship or bust, is championship or nothing. Tony Romo didn't win us any championships. He was a very good quarterback for a long time, but he wasn't great, okay? And so once he retired, he kind of went on this little kind of tour around the state of Texas, particularly, or Dallas in particular. And I don't know if you all remember, I don't know if you remember this, Blanche, but Tony Romo got to suit up as a Dallas Maverick. I don't know if you remember that. And before one of the game, I think it was the Dallas Mavericks final game of the season, and they were out of playoff contention. And so Tony Romo was a pretty good basketball player as well, just an all-around good athlete. So he's out there shooting jumpers. He's in the layup line during the warm-ups. And I think they even let him sit on the bench or whatever during the game. But he didn't, get in the game. I don't think they signed him to a one-day contract and he actually got to play. I don't think he got to play. But he just got to, be in the layup line and shoot around with the team on the court. And I remember the debate was Tony Romo, oh my God, kind of like the media has this Dallas Cowboy bias as America's team. It's like they want to put Tony Romo up on his pedestal because he was the Dallas Cowboy quarterback, but he wasn't great. He wasn't that good. He was okay, but he wasn't great. They didn't win any Super Bowls. The Dallas Cowboys weren't champions under his reign. Mm-hmm. And when they got around and they're doing the roundabout, everyone's giving their take on is Tony Romo's retirement being treated like it's something more than what it should be. They got to Stephen A. Smith, and he turned it into a race thing. Now you all are seeing what we have been talking about, that we as Black people and we as Black athletes and black, because if Tony Romo was a Black quarterback, he wouldn't be getting treated like this. You see, only white quarterbacks, particularly Tony Romo's position, an average white quarterback, could be given the opportunity to suit up in an NBA uniform like he's freaking, you know what I mean? Like he's the reincarnation of Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman combined. Only a white guy would get that kind of privilege. And so he turned Tony Romo's retirement into this whole racial thing. And he went on this whole tirade about this is what we as Black people are talking about. When we talk about how we're not treated fairly, when we say, well, we don't get equal treatment, and we look over and we see white people getting treated favorably and this and that. I said, I washed my hands of CNN. I'm not CNN. Well, might as well be CNN, but I washed my hands of ESPN. I put this on right hand of God. That's if not, it's kind of some years ago, so I may not remember. So let me not swear on God. But that was one of the last times I watched ESPN. But after that, I was done. I can't watch this network anymore, and I'm done with Stephen A. Smith. He was one of the main reasons why I stopped watching ESPN. Him. And shout out to Brandon Tatum for going in there being civil with Stephen A. Smith. But again, I can't get put in them situations because I'm coming in there hostile. I'm coming in there hostile because Stephen A. Smith, I don't like you, bro. I don't like
I will say, I mean, with all of his antics and his race baiting, I think Stephen A. is funny and therefore entertaining. He kind of reminds me of Morris Day. Y'all remember Morris Day?
Of course.
Yeah. That's who he reminds me of.
Of course.
Really?
Yeah. Keisha, you remember Morris Day? The Time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what
they had that hit single, Niglet Love.
I remember. I want to see some perfection. I remember that. Let me
hold on, Keisha, but you know what's funny about Stephen A? So Ahmad Rashad, I don't know if y'all remember this, but Ahmad Rashad had played, he had a 2-day contract with the 76ers.
2 days.
Ahmad Rashad was 40 years old. He signed a 2-day contract with the 76ers. He was practicing with them in the preseason, everything for 2 days. That wasn't privilege. He talking about Tony Romo is actually, coming off of being a professional athlete. Ahmad Rashad is 40 years old, ain't played sports in years, but yes, if you look it up, you'll see Ahmad Rashad out there playing. Go on YouTube, You'll see him for 2
Like
days.
Ahmad Rashad, like Felicia
Yes.
Rashad's husband.
Yes.
They divorced now, ain't they? They've been divorced, right?
Yeah, they divorced.
Yeah.
But yes, him.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Wow.
Mhm.
Black Americans have privilege. Did y'all see the black lady who moved to Africa?
Yep.
I heard
And
about
had
it. I
to
didn't
come
watch
back?
the clip though.
Well,
I heard
I did
complaining.
react to it. It was quite hilarious.
It was
But
beautiful.
huh?
It's beautiful.
I love when black
Oh,
folks
man.
go to Africa and get ran up out of there. I love it. Like I can't.
Hey, y'all. I hold on before we move on, let me get up out of here, man. Cause I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta dip out early. Maybe some of y'all in the comment section are happy that Chuck is leaving. See, I talk about myself in the third person right there. But no, I gotta get up out of here, y'all. I'm like super tired. My daughter, I think she brought a little bug in here. If you can tell, I keep coughing on camera. I'm not feeling my best. So, and I had a real long day. So I'm gonna get out of here early. I apologize. But before you even moved on, Keisha, I just wanted to say my bye to everybody. Let me get up out of here and take myself to bed. I ain't feeling all that great, y'all.
All right. Well,
All
take
right, I'll
care.
holler
We'll
at
be
y'all,
praying
man.
for
And I
you.
will be watching. All right.
Feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, here's the Brandon Stephen part 2.
Building the economy helps build black people's pocketbook. Last time I checked, when you're talking about immigration and getting all these illegal aliens out of our country, spending taxpayer dollar, black people pay taxes. That helps and benefits the black community. I don't think I agree with nothing that the Democrats are doing. I don't think I agree with any of it. I believe in God. I believe putting God first. I believe in marriages between a man and a woman. I mean, you go down a list. I don't want to pay no crazy amount of taxes just for them to be throwing your money like they at a strip club. So I'm saying when I look at the policy position, not the emotional manipulation of empathy that I see from the Democrat side and from D.L. Hughley and others, I look at policy and I say, well, the policy of lowering taxes makes sense. We have 20 million illegal aliens coming from the southern border right into our country. When these illegals come into America, they don't go to the foothills. They're not going to the affluent neighborhoods. They're not welcome at Martha's Vineyard. They are going and competing for low-skilled work in the inner cities. And therefore, they're putting black people out of employment because black people are working for citizen wages, which means that you're an American citizen, you have to work for minimum wage. These people coming over here, that you can pay them under the table.
I'm popular for saying this, Officer Tatum. When white folks catch a cold, black folks catch pneumonia. It's always worse for us than it is for them. I bring up that statement because of what you just said. When you think about open borders and illegal immigrants crossing the borders, ultimately you're alluding to it having a detrimental effect on the black community. Is that your way of saying that you felt the left did that to us, that they just disregarded black folks?
Stephen A., they've been giving us the middle finger since I can remember. All the way back from the Ku Klux Klan. They have never supported black people whatsoever. They hoodwinked us into getting us on food stamps and getting us with government assistance, having us to abandon our own success. We had our own bus line. We had our own schools. We had all this stuff. They tricked us into believing that the white man was the cure to our own issues.
Okay.
They tricked us. And then now look at us, Stephen A. They don't have to bid for our vote. They got our vote hook, line, and sinker.
Well,
so they're never going to do nothing for us.
That part I get. But when you say they did nothing, I'm thinking about civil rights legislation. I'm thinking about infrastructure. I'm thinking about Jim Crow laws, the eradication of it. I'm thinking about the access to capital that was given that black folks had dated from the 60s and beyond that we didn't have before that. Are you saying that's the Republican?
That's Republican, unanimous Republican votes for the civil rights. The Democrats filibustered the Civil Rights Act, the longest filibuster in history until Booker just did what he did. But the Democrats were not in support of that. That was the Republican Party that was in support of that. And then let's go down the list. If these things were benefiting black people, why are we still complaining today? We've been voting for Democrats for, 40, 50 years now, lockstep, and we still complaining. We still don't have the rights that we want. We still don't have equality in America. Racism is still plaguing our community, according to black people. So what have they been doing this whole time? And when you look at it, they have just secured our vote. and they don't have to do nothing for us. And this is what we've created, Stephen A. We've created an environment where we don't benefit from none of it because the Democrats don't have to work because they know I already got us. The Republicans don't need to work because they can win without us.
I've been saying that.
Black women voted at 90-some% for Democrats. Stephen A., Donald Trump won in a landslide. You give it 2 more election cycles. Illegal aliens and Hispanics are going to be the majority minority. Therefore, Black people can vote 100% for Democrats, and they're not going to have any leverage in the political environment.
Nope. Chad's still away. Well, so I agree with some of the things. I agree with mostly what he said, but I don't agree with why. So yes, it is true that Black people in the 60s started voting for Democrats, and the whole coming through the House, the whole the welfare state and all that. But I don't think we can blame that. You have to take responsibility, for your actions. You can't just blame it on one group because they didn't put a gun in your head and make you do it. However, I will say that chat is back. I will say that because of the media, the academia, and basically the long march through the institutions, it does feel like people didn't have a say. Black people in particular didn't have a say because propaganda is very powerful. If you're, like we were saying, if you hear something over and over and over, you're going to start to believe it. And that is exactly what started to happen. You saw Black people start to believe these things. This stuff was coming through the pulpit. There was no respite for, no recluse for people hearing this stuff. Oh, you're oppressed every day at church. You're oppressed at the schoolhouse. You're oppressed in college. You showing up oppressed. Like in politics, you're oppressed. Like everywhere you go, you're oppressed. So how do you fight that when you're, when it's just coming out the speakers on loop?
I think in this, I think that Tatum answered appropriately because he's answering from the frame in which Stephen A is thinking. Like he's answering based on why Stephen A is saying what he's saying. Now, of course, if Stephen A is talking to cutting through the culture, then it's obviously going to be a whole different kind of conversation. But Tatum is answering him based on the intent of what he's saying and based on the intent and why Black people say what they say. But I think at this point, as we move on in time, this is such a spiritual battle because we're in an information age, in a media age. This stuff is a lot more powerful than it was back in 1960, or let's say 1955, 1960, where you saw things on TV, but if you didn't really hear somebody speak, or it wasn't like you heard it at church maybe, but now it's on your phone every single day, 24 hours a day. It's on your iPads, on your laptop. It's like, so now, whereas before you may get the propaganda 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, now you're getting propaganda literally from sun up to sundown, and it's more supported by mainstream America. It's more supported by government, politics. Everything is, think about it. The entire election is made about race. The entire election is made about Black people voting, white people voting, Hispanic, and they made the whole thing about race. And it's because this stuff is mainstream now. So now we look at Hollywood, as movies, everything is. So at this stage in the game, I think the only way for a person to truly escape this, Keisha, is it has to be through Christ. Because if you think about it, how are they going to navigate? Think about a child that's 10 years old now. In 8 years when they're 18, how in the world are they going to navigate through this madness? Like how? Their parents are woke, their friends are woke, like how are they going to be able to decipher through this? To me, it's going to take something spiritual, some kind of spiritual awakening, some kind of revelation that's internal, some type of, Saul heading to Damascus moment, like extreme, because think about it. Black people being oppressed is not even debated. It's not even, people can, slavery, oppression, like it's not even, they don't even question the civil rights movement.
Check this out.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So tonight, earlier, we were at a function with my husband, and we were sitting at a table with so it was another Black guy, a white lady, and a Hispanic lady. And the Black guy started talking about, he said something about or whatever. And so Antonio's like, but he's saying something like crazy. So Antonio was like tapping me like, oh, yeah, like listen to this guy. And I didn't hear what he said because he was kind of like finished at the end of the scene. But then the white lady sitting next to him, they started talking about like this area part of Jacksonville. And Antonio was like, yeah, I don't really like going over there, whatever. And the white lady chimed in. She's like, yeah, it's so different. Like I grew up there, and listen to what she said. And I was just like, she was like, yeah, they've really gentrified that area. It used to be the hood there. They kicked out all the people that was on Section 8, like she's saying it like it's a bad thing, and she's like, yeah, it's really changed that area. And I'm listening, and Antonio, I can tell he's like, not the time, Keisha. Don't say it. Like, just keep it pushing, right? But I'm just thinking, like, she automatically thought, oh, here's 3 Black people. I feel comfortable saying this because I'm saying everything that I'm saying is basically that y'all are oppressed. You're a victim, and I'm just elaborating on how much of a victim that you are, and I'm gonna, in so many words, say how white people did this to you, because that's essentially what she was saying. Like, oh, they really changed that area. It's so different now. It's not good anymore because they kicked people out there. It was hood and Section 8. It's like, that's an insult to me. Like, I'm not happy, like, it's, why do you think all Black people are on Section 8? Like, that was what she was saying. Like, yeah, the poor people, the Section 8 people, the Black folks that were on there, nod, wink, wink. Yeah, they kicked them all out. And so now it's just so gentrified and so terrible. Anyway, my point is, you see Black, you're automatically oppressed. And white folks don't have a problem saying that to you.
Well, it's kind of, it should be insulting.
It was insulting.
It really should be, for someone to look at you and just think that you just are helpless and you at the whim of white people with money or the government. Like, you can't turn anywhere. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of disgusting though. And then this notion that Black folks are being kicked out. I don't know. What does that mean? So somebody came to you and said, you got to move? Like, did you own the house? Were you rent? Like what was the situation where you got kicked out of your neighborhood?
Typically, when a neighborhood is gentrified, they pay you to leave.
Right.
They offer you, they say, here's an offer. We want to buy this property. And typically Black folks sell. That's what happens. Nobody kicks you out. They buy the property. That's what happens. Chad, thoughts?
So I agree with Blanche when it came to the way Brandon Tatum answered Stephen A. Smith's question. Because he was basically addressing a claim that Stephen A. was making, namely that Democrats are responsible for the passage of the Civil Rights Act. And of course, Stephen A. is under the assumption that the Civil Rights Act was generally a good thing for Black Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon Tatum, of course, corrected him and said, well, actually, it was unanimous support by Republicans in Congress who were responsible for the passage of this legislation. And of course, LBJ gets the credit because he was a Democrat. So he was addressing a claim that was made by Stephen A. But then Brandon goes on to say that even with this legislation, blacks are still complaining about racism. Blacks are still complaining, and so what good did it actually do, right? And so for me, I think that Brandon Tatum did well in terms of his answering the question. Of course, he didn't. Of course, it because I'm so passionate about the Civil Rights Act and the Civil Rights Movement being an overall detriment, not only to Black America but to America at large. I would have pushed that, but I'll take Brandon's answer for what it is, and I think this is the reason why Brandon is so successful in these spaces, and why he's managed to gather for himself such a large following, such a large audience, is because unlike me, like, he's far more approachable in terms of being able to like really to give voice to a side or a perspective that the general public hasn't been exposed to heretofore. And I think the difference is, for one, I think Brandon is more well spoken than I am in terms of his ability to just lay out what he believes to be the facts in a quick and entertaining way, thus keeping your attention. And for me, on the other hand, I'm not as gifted in that department. And then two, my mind tends to wander, and I want to be able to check all these boxes and make sure that I really kind of like expose the underbelly of what it is we're talking about. And I think my mode of communication it misses a lot of people. And I'm aware of that, and this is why I quite enjoy making films and doing presentations, so I can really kind of convey what it is I'm trying to communicate, without you sitting here watching me for 2 hours. I mean, I know we're sitting here doing a 2.5-hour podcast, but my point is that you have different people who kind of introduce you to new concepts or things that are different than what you heard growing up and going to the public school. And I think people kind of graduate to different communicators, and I think that's a net positive good thing. But for me, it's like I do kind of cringe when the actual defects of the civil rights movement isn't addressed. And I think for the time that Brandon was given, at least he brought it back to the fact that this didn't actually benefit blacks insofar as blacks are still complaining about racism. And so what good did it actually do? And so kudos to Brandon for that.
Do you guys? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and also, so it's kind of like if Chad was more popular, then he would he would be invited to a space, and they would be asking him about specific things about his stance on civil rights movement and these type of things. So like if you had millions of followers, when you came to the platform, they'd already be asking you specifically, okay, they'd be asking you like, who was this and who was that? But in the stage you're in now, when you go to a platform, they're not going to ask you direct questions about, I guess, per se, So like Tatum's stance is already known by Stephen A., if that makes sense. So when he comes on the show, he's going to ask him questions that are already based on what Brandon Tatum's already saying. But in your case, you might come on the show and they may ask you 15 questions, not specific to what you're. So like, for example, like your film. You go on a tour, they're going to ask you specifically about your film. So that way you can elaborate how you want to and check boxes, because the premise is already set. He feels this way about the civil rights movement. This is where it is. So the premise of the show is going to be the real secrets behind the civil rights movement, or the truth. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just positioned the way you are to where how they're asking you the questions to be able to elaborate. If Tatum went on the show and they asked him 15 different questions, it'd be the same thing. It's just that when you go on the show, they're asking you a wide variety of questions because of your mind. But if you went on the show and they said, listen, lay it out for me, civil rights movement, you'd be able to, okay, how much time we got? And you'd be able to go boom, 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 boom. So, I mean, I don't think that your mind wanders. I just think that you aren't allowed to just specifically focus on one thing when you're usually on an interview stage. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if they give you 2 hours to expand on something, then I guarantee you won't feel rushed. You won't feel like, you know what I'm saying? You'll be able to relax and actually talk about it. But if they're asking you about 15 different things, you're like, well, shoot, you gotta be, it's just, I don't know, it's just a lot harder. It's just a lot harder,
Yeah.
you know, when you're not asked something specific for a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, this is the last clip.
I think that the most important message that you're giving is that the Democratic Party has had the black vote for the most part since the 60s. And we've been so transparent in our support for the party that it's given them a license to take us for granted. And it's given the right a license to ignore us because they assumed they wouldn't get our vote anyway. Therefore, we're the ones without representation. And then we're wondering what the hell has happened. Now, Trump disoriented stuff a little bit because I think I never called him names and all stuff. My issue with him is how he behaves, because I think the presidency is a statesmanship position. As a black man in the United States of America, with Trump in office right now, with everything that you've already said has been going on, due in large part to the left, where do you see us going from here? Because there's a lot of black people that don't see progress when they think about Trump.
It's a great question. I think that it's on an individual basis, because there are people who are never going to change. They're never going to like Trump. They go to these churches, and these pastors are telling them that the white man is the devil and Trump is the devil and Elon is the devil. And some people are never going to change. But the ones who want to change, the ones who are sick and tired of being sick and tired, are going to open their eyes and say, I'm done with listening to news. I'm done with listening to pundits. Let me do my research, because I want what's best for America. We all have to live in this country. It's not just a black country. It's not a white country. We all have to live here. And those people, Stephen A., like yourself, because we disagree on stuff too, but you a real man, and that's why I respect you enough to come on the show, because we can disagree, but we can still top it up.
I got to tell you, the mentality of looking at the policy, not the person, is something that I've grown to adopt and embrace even more so than ever before. And I think this last election sort of solidified that, but also listening to people like yourself and others. Again, we don't agree on everything, but I got mad respect for you, my brother, and I know you're doing big things. You got over 3.4 million subscribers on YouTube, people listening to you every day. You making an impact. You sensible, you open-minded, you fair-minded. And I got a lot of respect for you, man. So I'm really, really happy that you took time out of your schedule to come on the show. I appreciate it. You always got room here to holler at me. So ain't no problem at all, man. Thank you so much.
Well, I mean, okay. I think Stephen A. is
a joke.
I wouldn't say a real man. Like, to me, I don't believe that Stephen A. really believes all this stuff. Like, when he's telling the truth about Trump, I believe that's the real. I don't think that he believes, like, being fully supportive of Kamala and doing, like, I think Stephen A. is smart enough to know what's up, but he goes and tells lies. I don't have any respect for that. But maybe he is stupid. Maybe he just thinks that Kamala's plan was great. Wealthy people who are on the left, and it's all about, like, the race stuff and all of that. When it comes to especially when it comes to economics, I don't believe you. I don't believe Stephen A. is dumb enough to think that Kamala's economic plan was really good. I don't. And he was, getting up there and acting like it was. You can't tell me you like paying more taxes as a multimillionaire. Like, stop the cap. Like, come on. Like, stop it. You're crazy. Like, I don't believe you. That's all.
Yeah, I think that Stephen A. made a comment. He said that he believes that Trump is appealing to the right, but the way he said it was like Trump was appealing to racists. He said in that clip that you played in the beginning, I think in Chad's montage. So things like that let me know where Stephen A. really stands. He said he's concerned about how Trump behaves, but I've seen Biden behave terribly. I've seen Kamala behave terribly. I've seen these people behave terribly. But why is behavior all of a sudden now placed on Trump? Like why now is behavior an issue? Because what is Trump doing to misbehave? What is he doing?
Yeah.
Is he like, what is he actually doing? Nothing. So again, this is what you find with a lot of black men, and it's the reluctancy to draw the line in the sand. So Stephen A's hopping on both sides of the fence. I'm gonna have Tatum on my show to appeal to conservatives, but I'm also gonna send my little signals out to the libtards on the left and the bliggities. At the end of the day, as a man, if he's such a real man, then he would draw a line in the sand. I don't agree with this, period. Like Tatum said, and I respect Tatum for this. He said, I don't agree with anything Democrats do. And so guess what? That's drawing a line in the sand. So to me, that's manly, because I'm saying, I'm giving you my position. I'm hot or I'm cold. I'm not in the middle. But what Stephen A is doing is Stephen A is trying to play both sides of the fence. He's really a politician without being a politician, if you get what I'm saying. He's trying to, be accepted by both sides. Stephen A makes subjective money, meaning he makes money off of what people think, how people feel. He doesn't make money off of an actual skill or talent. He makes money off of how somebody feels about Stephen A and whether they want to pay him or not. That kind of clouds your judgment. If you're getting paid and it's subjective, you kind of lose focus and lose sight of what's really going on. You don't have the mind of the average person that actually has to have a skill set to earn a living, to make money. And so, yeah, Stephen A, I didn't like what he was doing in this interview because I saw right through it. I respect Tatum.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Somebody in the comments said, I can't even repeat it, but it's hilarious. Crack dog.
Crack dog.
Thoughts on Diddy? Y'all stupid.
So one of the things that stuck out to me about
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One of the things that stuck out to me, and this is why this little moment, which I'm about to mention, made it into the montage, is because I think it's indicative of the general conversation that we were having tonight. Namely, when Stephen A said, and of course we've heard this talking point before, Democrats, they believe that they have our vote in the bag. Republicans think that there's no way that they can win the black vote, and so they just ignore us. Therefore, we don't have any real representation. And to me, it begs the question: well, what kind of special representation do black folks need? Generally, what is a black issue that you think a politician can represent in Washington, D.C.? What kind of special treatment do black folks need? What kind of gloves do black folks need to be treated with that you don't necessarily need for other ethnic groups? And it's just very strange for me to hear a grown man who just signed a $100 million contract speaking this way. You're kind of touting this rhetoric and regurgitating this rhetoric of black folks in particular need special representation in Washington, D.C. in order to get rid of the black plight, or in order to close the gap between blacks and other quote unquote ethnic groups. Well, if that's true, let's just give that to you. What then, Stephen A, are the specific policies that you propose that would help close that gap between blacks and other ethnic groups? What is the kind of legislation that you think specifically will help black folks? And of course, they will say, well, we believe that part of the success of the civil rights movement is that it gave blacks more access to the mainstream. It gave blacks more access to political power and to the vote and to this, that, and a third in order to make their own way. Well, MLK promised or predicted or prophesied that, if the Negro is given the ballot, which, by the way, the Negro already had the ballot before the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, but I digress. But he said if the Negro gets the ballot, he will be able to uplift his financial situation. He'll be able to get his feet underneath him. Well, we see a widening of this so-called gap that you say exists as a result of the passage of these pieces of legislation. Because to the point that we made earlier, when you solidify a group as a protected class, what that then does is it de-incentivizes the accountability. You see a decline in the moral character of the group. You see a kind of giving way to decadence, and I call the 1960s the era of indulgence, and you saw it come to full swing in the 1970s, because that's of course when you had the decision that was made by the Supreme Court in favor of Roe, right? The Supreme Court made a decision that was an answer to second wave feminism. Women who were claiming that we are not on equal footing, and they were following the guidelines and the playbook of the civil rights movement. But they said we are not on equal footing as men, because if we get pregnant, we're sidelined. We have to take 9 months off, and therefore, when we come back to the workforce, we're already behind because men don't get pregnant. Therefore, we need to be equal with men, and by aborting our babies, we will then be equal with men, and we can focus more on our careers. So you see this pulling away from the family, this giving way to indulgence and to self. And naturally, as you move into the 70s, you see a decline in the family. They called the baby boomer generation the baby boomer generation because after the soldiers came back from war, they had all these babies. But then, of course, you get into the 70s, and as these young people are coming of age, they're not having as many kids because, one, they're aborting their babies, but also they don't have the same values as their parents. They're giving way to the indulgence culture that came to them through the civil rights movement, through feminism, through gay liberation, through the hippie movement, through the free love movement, through all these social justice movements. They're just giving way to indulgence.
And their parents worked. Their moms now worked. And so they weren't even in the house anymore. So yeah, they had all these babies, but the moms would, instead of being at home with babies, they was going and working now. Like it really changed the feminist movement, changed a lot. That's an interesting question. What was worse, the feminist movement or the welfare? I mean, I know both of them were big boulders into the family, but I wonder which was worse.
Yeah, and I reference this clip all the time, but the late Nikki Giovanni, the poet who came of age during the civil rights movement, who was a young radical, she was part of the Black militant movement in the 1970s. She said 15 years before she passed away, I think it was in 2005 or 6, she said that, Black people have always been industrious. We've always had businesses. Look at North Carolina, look at Black Wall Street, look at X, Y, and Z. We've always done this. My generation, says Nikki Giovanni, we were radicals. We didn't do the whole business thing. We were good civil rights people, she said. We were good picketers and marchers and protesters. So we put down the shovel and we put down the tools and we picked up the picket signs. That was our generation. So this is what Nikki Giovanni is admitting to you, that we gave up on this upward trajectory, this upward mobility by way of the work that we're doing with our own hands. And we started to beg and plead the government to give us access. And it's like you're begging the government to do something that your parents and grandparents were already doing by themselves. And as a result of them doing it by themselves, you had the kind of character building component that happens when you work that was making it so to where you had the strong family unit, you had, and you've always had the criminal element among, so-called Black culture. You've always had the degenerates, but they weren't boosted to the top.
Right.
I mean, except for in places like, Harlem, during the Harlem Renaissance, where they tried to take the lowest common denominator and plaster this as the Black experience or the Black expression, right? And if you look at newspaper articles from the 1920s, which had opinion pieces that where readers of the newspapers can write in and give their opinion over a given thing, go back and read those opinion pieces by readers of the paper. They themselves, Black people themselves, were rejecting what are they called? The vaudeville kind of the minstrel the minstrel kind of
like the
performances.
20s, the
Right.
swingers and the
Yeah. So you have black people, like responsible black people, who were rejecting this and saying this doesn't represent us. This isn't, what about what about predominantly white middle America who don't live anywhere near black folks? The only contact that they have with black folks is when they go to the silver screen and they see black folks on a television being degenerates, or not on the television, but they see black people on the picture show being degenerates. And guess what? These motion pictures were paid for by the FDR administration, right? And so I'm kind of venturing off, but the point that I'm trying to make here is that when it comes to this whole idea, I don't know how I got off on this little tangent, but when it comes to what Stephen A was saying was that, like, oh, we don't have any representation. Like, that to me is pitiful rhetoric, but I hear people saying it like way too often. Shut up. Get to work. You will make your, I promise you will make it. You will make it. But to the extent, and what sucks is that it's not enough that these people complain, oh, we don't have representation. It's not enough that they do that. What happens is their rhetoric is seconded legislatively in Washington, D.C. And so what they begin to do is they begin to shape society by way of legislation and regulation in such a way that infrastructurally it caters more so to the degenerate and the complainer than the person who is just trying to feed his family by way of the work of his own hands. And so as you see it, as you move from the 1950s on into the 70s and even today, our society infrastructurally, in terms of the way that we're set up, caters more to the LGBT, caters more to the black degenerate, caters more to the white degenerate, caters more to the person who believes that their problems in their life is somebody else's fault, than a merit-based society that says if a man does not work, he shall not eat. We're becoming more socialistic as a society as a result of the complainer. And so Stephen A. Smith is not doing anyone any favors when he says that the Negro doesn't have any representation in Washington, D.C. It's a mess.
And that's what I said about the big from the first clip that we talked about with the Shiloh Hendricks. I mean, we're looking at, we want to blame the people that are acting. We want to look at the people that are acting like a degenerate, which she was, even if, and I'm like, oh yes, this is good. Oh yes, here's $500,000. Like, I don't know. This whole thing is just a mess. I'm sorry, Blanche, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but I would challenge, Stephen A. saying what Chad just said about representation, when how can the quote unquote right appeal to black people? Like, how can Republicans appeal to black people? If they're telling you we want everything to be equal, we want a merit-based society. If we want Americans to be put, like, all the things that Republicans campaign on, black people reject. So so how can Republicans appeal to black people? Like what are they going to tell me black people going to listen to?
So here's my thing. So y'all know I worked in, like, not just, for many of you don't know that I did more than just political commentary. I've actually worked campaigns, very involved locally. And I've door knocked, I've phone banked, I've done it all. And this is what I will say. Many people had never had a Republican that came to, many black people never had a Republican that came to their door. Most black people, when you're talking to them individually, is different than when you talk to like a group of black folks, or if you're talking like a person like a Stephen A. Smith, or like somebody that's supposed to be like a representative of the black community. It's totally different. When you're talking one-on-one, you get more real, more authentic. Older black people, I would say, don't even waste your time. But younger black people, you can appeal to them on facts and truth. There is an ability to, because they don't have all these hangups. they really want to know, like, what does this stuff mean? I heard my mom talking about this Republican Democrat stuff, but I don't really know what it means. Most younger people, they're not really even that engaged or involved. They kind of just don't care. But I do think you can appeal to them with facts and truth. And most Republicans don't go to, they don't go to Black neighborhoods. Yeah, because you have to spend money to those door hangers that you're going to leave when you go to a house, that costs money. And so me going to your door and, spending this money to try to persuade you, but not really having a return. I mean, yeah, you can kind of see why Republicans don't want to go there. I know people I think you should do it, even little by little, because I do believe that you should try to persuade people to better ways of life, to lower taxes, to opening up your, especially local elections and school choice, certain things that people really do, when you explain it to them, they actually believe in, so I don't know. I think it would benefit Black people to hear more Republicans out, but I understand why Republicans don't go there, quote unquote, like they should. I mean, Black people aren't donating. So you're not donating, like you're not even donating to, from communities that would actually benefit. So you have to think about it from both sides. This is an organization that takes money to go out and do what it needs to do. And it's not getting money from a certain group of people. It becomes a waste of time. Sorry. I mean, it just does. Does that mean that I think you shouldn't spend time at all in Black neighborhoods? No, I do. I think you should spend some, but spend your money well. Be wise.
So I'd venture to say that this past election, in my opinion, was the most engaged election, meaning that I saw the most commentary, the most content being pushed, I just saw a lot when it was Trump and Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris was glaringly bad, horrible, and she still got almost 90% of the Black vote. So right. I'm trying to figure out, like, even a situation where it was like night and day, it wasn't even like it was an easy decision to make when it came to Trump and Kamala Harris. Black folks still said Kamala. I'm just like, I don't know. I just think that it's so easy to tilt the needle another way with Black people, because it just takes, like, it's almost like they're a voter that's on the fringe of, like, you might go to their house and they're like, I'm about to vote Republican, and then they get a phone call. Many white folks tripping, and then it's back. It's almost like all your work is undone. Like,
I know somebody that happened to. Yes, that is true. That is true. Oh, I'm voting for Trump. Oh, my mom's called and yeah. Oh yeah, I voted for Kamala, or I voted for Hillary.
So Keisha, as idealistic as what you said sounds, I think it doesn't quite mesh with reality. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. And I think it depends on the person, right? I think it depends on the person. If you're knocking doors, I suspect that you, Keisha K. Benton, would be steadfast in what you believe, to where you don't compromise or promise the Negroes on the block something that that is not actually philosophically or principally aligned with what Republicans are supposed to believe traditionally. But the further you go up the kind of totem pole of the RNC, what you see happening is, rather than Republicans principally staying sure-footed in what they believe as they try to invite others into the fold, what they're doing is they're compromising on various planks of what they believe so as to broaden the tent, as it were. And we see this happening with Trump himself, right? I mean, when you look at the whole like Black History celebration that he had, which was, I think, an absolute circus a few months ago. But the fact is, because the Republican Party isn't a Christian party in any real sense, because many of these people aren't actually Christians, many of them are politically Christians. In other words, it's politically expedient for them to try to win the evangelical vote. The fact is, they aren't people who adhere to what the scriptures say, and thus they don't abide by the principles that the Bible teaches. And I'll give you an example of one real quick, because the Bible does speak to proselytizing and sharing the faith with transgressors, with sinners, with those of us who don't know the Lord yet. It speaks to this, but it issues a warning that I think is important for us to pay attention to. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. Let's see here. This is from Galatians chapter 6, starting in verse 1. It says, "Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted, lest you too fall in the same sin of the person who you're trying to pull out of the transgression. And the Republican Party writ large don't abide by this principle here. They make concessions for LGBT, and they make concessions for the Black grievance, and they make concessions for all the things that, like, instead of basically pulling these groups of people who are caught within the so-called Democrat snare, instead of pulling them away or out of that spell, they try to utilize the same tricks that the Democrats have used historically in order to win these people. And so when I hear Stephen A. Smith say, "Oh, Republicans, they just ignore the Blacks," to take it back to Blanche's point earlier, well, what does it mean to reach the Blacks? Because if their stimuli is already organized to respond to a certain kind of catering, to a certain kind of pandering, if their stimuli is already set up to adhere to certain beliefs and certain mythologies that have been instilled in them from a very early age as part of their cultural makeup and their cultural ethos and their pathology, quite frankly, then what can a Republican possibly say that's going to win them over? Because you, as a Republican, already have to adhere to a bevy of different undergirding beliefs in order to even be heard to begin with, right? And so for me, my time is better spent sharing the gospel with someone than trying to share with them a political philosophy or political ideology, or why this particular Republican politician is going to be better than this Democrat politician. To me, I think that's a waste of time and a fool's errand, quite frankly, because the fact is, Jesus came that you might repent of your sins and make Christ Lord, not that you might put a Republican in office. I mean, that stuff is secondary, probably not even secondary. That's way down the line. And actually, I got this next part that I'm about to say from Blanche. At least I think it was from Blanche, which is to say that the decisions that you make on a daily basis, to get up out of bed, to take a shower, to brush your teeth, to eat, to go to work, to do all the things, that's a daily decision. The decision to vote comes once every 2 to 4 years, depending on the election, right? And so the decisions that you make on a daily basis have a far better and far more impact on you, far bigger impact on you than who you vote for elected office. That's not to say that you shouldn't engage in the civic process. That's not what I'm arguing at all. But what I am saying is that many of us, and I'm not saying this is you, Keisha, but many of us have become so zealous for political ideology and for political partisanship that we spend so much time advocating for a political position versus really kind of speaking to the culture and speaking to the deficiencies of the culture and pointing to Christ and him crucified as the only solution for your problems that you're having. You've let your hand off the plow as a people, as a country, as a culture. And here's what saith the Lord. And you need to repent and give your life unto him. And in so doing, to the extent that you come out under Christ's lordship, little by little, and some people will be more of a radical change, but little by little, as you're being sanctified, as you're being made new in Christ, you'll begin to get back to that place from which you fell. And then as far as politics is concerned, for me, my politics is downstream of my being a Christian. I don't vote for Democrats because they have positions themselves of not necessarily just rejecting Christianity, but actually being quite hostile to Christianity. And so why would I vote for people who mock my faith? I'm just not going to do that. And so I'm won over by, first and foremost, being born again, and then secondarily, I can see that the decisions that I make, because we're called as Christians to love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and we're called to do all things unto the glory of, for the glory of God. It's not God glorifying to vote for politicians who mock your faith. And that, it's just as simple as that. And so for me, we are called by Christ to go and to make disciples. He told his disciples, like, I'll make you fishers of men. And he's saying that to them, yes, but also knowing that the inspired word of God will go out to the masses for generations to come. He's speaking to anybody who will come to him. I'm going to make you fishers of men. And many of us have left the post, though we claim to be Christians. We've left that post, and we're utilizing our energy instead to advocate for politicians, as if these people are going to bring the peace onto the earth that only Christ can bring. And so yeah, I'll just leave it there. We're called to go and make disciples, and as we are preaching Christ in the midst of people's transgressions, we have to keep watch and make sure that we don't too fall into those same transgressions. And this goes back, to bring everything back full circle to earlier in the conversation, with this whole race debate that's raging. Many people who call themselves Christians are finding themselves standing on the side of Carmelo Anthony, or standing on the side of Austin Metcalf, standing on the side of this Shiloh Hendricks woman, or standing on the side of this, or the side of that, or side of this. Well, where's Christ in all of it? And so anyway, for real this time, that's my last point.
Well, I would just say, so I think I don't think sometimes you are able to minister to someone. Honestly, door knocking is a great time to minister to people. You never know how God is going to, you never know. I've prayed with people in the grocery store. Like, you just never know. So I'll say that. And also, the party is not a religious organization. So I guess I don't go in there expecting everybody to be, follow it, to be a Christian, even though, yes, a lot of Republicans are Christians, or at least, say that they're Christians. So I don't think it's almost like you're saying, if you're going to get involved in an organization, the only organization that you should be involved in is one that is like an evangelical, like where you're going out.
Well, what I'm saying is that the church is the only institution that Christ has established on the earth as a force for good until his second return, until his second coming. And many of us are more gung-ho on behalf of the Republican Party and reaching our fellow neighbor that they might vote for the politician we like, than we are in advocating for Christ's bride, the church.
True.
Which is again the only institution established by Christ himself as a force for good on the earth until he returns. And so for me, it's like, is it a bad thing? Is it a sin to be a Republican or to be a part of your local Republican club? No, that's not what I'm arguing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, you can tell where people's priorities are by virtue of what they talk about most. Is the point that I'm making.
Oh, true. Yeah, no, for sure. And I would say, because the church has been so infiltrated by the left, I mean, it just has been. A lot of times what you're getting at church is it's not even biblical. I won't say a lot. Sometimes what you're getting at church is not even
No, it's a
biblical
lot in the
anyway.
black church. It's a lot.
I was going to say, particularly in the black church. So I can only speak for myself. I know if I go out, and I haven't even been doing this for some time now, but if I'm going out helping with a politician, for a politician that I actually believe in, like I've talked to this person, I've sat down, I've been watching them or whatever, I feel comfortable to go out and advocate for them. You can dispel a lot of those things that the church has actually been spewing out when you have these one-on-one conversations. Now, that's me, because I'm not caught up in that thing. That's not every Republican, but I don't know. It's a person by person thing. I'm just saying, you can take an opportunity to spread truth, the gospel, really in anything that you're doing. And that is, if you're door knocking, I think that's a good thing. I think it's good for Christians to be politically involved. And I know you're not saying that it's not good. I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying that it has become where people are advocating more for the party instead of Christ, and they are claiming Christ, but you don't hear them talk about Christ. It's all, everything else but Christ. And that is a problem. I'm just saying, I think part of how we got here so fast in a Christian country is because we didn't, the Christians, not enough of us was out there getting involved in politics, because these things did come through the law. And I don't think we were, y'all know how I feel about this. I think we should have been more involved, back in the day when abortion was coming through the pipeline and feminism, like these things were direct attacks at our God instituted institutions, the church, the family, and government. Straight up attacks. And when you look back, yeah, there were some Christians that were saying something, but I wish there were more Christians that were out there door knocking and getting involved and saying, no, we're not, this shall not be. We're not having this. And we certainly aren't going to sit back and let you just, have it. We can't just lay down and let you have it. But I think a lot of Christians were like, you know what, that's not really my area. That's the culture stuff. Like, it's politics. That doesn't affect us. We're over here. We'll need to be bothered with that. So,
right. Yeah. Real quick, before we read the supers and close off the show, do we got time to play this clip from the upcoming documentary?
Yes.
Okay. Because I think it kind of goes in hand with this conversation that we're having right now.
Wait, okay.
Dr. King's radicalism goes as far back as his teenage years. As the son of a minister who himself was a proponent of the social gospel and frequented events put on by communist front organizations, MLK had a front row seat to all of it, including the cadence of his father's preaching style. which the younger king learned to mimic quite well.
Jesus was the leader in the way, a movement that was known as the way. For he said, I am the way, the truth, and the light. Now that gets all of it. I am.
In his younger years, MLK attended Booker T. Washington High School, which unfortunately deviated from its namesake and was, by the time MLK went there, teaching New Thought, which apparently made a greater impression on him than the teachings of the Bible.
I accepted biblical studies uncritically until I was about 12 years old. But this uncritical attitude could not last long, for it was contrary to the very nature of my being. I had always been the questioning and precocious type. At the age of 13, I shocked my Sunday school class by denying the bodily resurrection of Jesus. From the age of 13 on, doubts began to spring forth unrelentingly. At the age of 15, I entered college, and more could I see a gap between what I had learned in Sunday school and what I was learning in college. King College Papers, 1950.
As a teen, he followed his father's lead, joining activist organizations himself.
As soon as I started moving through society and working here and there as a teenager, I came to see that if religion was to be relevant, these great ethical insights had to be transformed into some kind of meaningful social action. And it was at that time that I started working, even though I was still in high school and then later college, in youth organizations that were grappling with the problem of racial injustice.
He even competed in an oratory contest sponsored by the Black Elks chapter in Atlanta. He spoke of the Black struggle.
Which is strange because he himself didn't suffer any so-called
all of it. My prayer is that maybe, just maybe, this might lead people, to see that the Civil Rights Act is not something that we want, because when white people start wanting to lay claim to that, I think some people are going to be like, maybe this is not what we want. So I don't know, maybe in God's divine plan, this is somehow leading us to a way that we can remove this thing off of this new stain off of our record. And I don't know, maybe get us back to a place that's actually functionable, because we can't function with one group of people, even though it's like, other groups are added. Yes, I know, but we know where this comes from. One group of people being, a group that you can't say anything about, you can't do anything, you know what I mean? Like, you can't have a functional society when one group has different rules. So that's all.
When we go to the super stickers.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Dion, I'm sorry, I don't know why I see him say Dion. Manny Johnson talked about this. I think because Dylon remember P. Diddy and then with Dylon. Dayon, he said the top 5 rappers alive was like Dylon. Making of the Band, I think, was the name of the show. Anyway, Manning Johnson talked about this. Black Americans who go out of their way to cause friction. White folks are reacting to decadence of provocations. Decadences of provocation. Thank you, Dayon.
Thanks, Dayon.
Thank you.
Martin Towns, thank you so much for the super sticker. Rick Hampstead gifted Chad 10 memberships. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thanks.
Jerome, be happy Sunday and God bless. Thank you, Jerome. Appreciate it. CC777, thank you so much. CC77 again. Hope everyone is doing well. Stay safe. Thank you so much. Deborah Leone, Lavrenti Beria.
Hi, Deborah. That's my girl. Is that the book that Or is that a person?
Is that a person?
That's the person that Chuck was, whose name Chuck was trying to think of earlier, I think.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Maria.
If I'm not mistaken.
Jackhammer 23, Orthodox Christian Jay Dyer had a heated confrontation with a liberation theologist pastor on Piers Morgan. Y'all might appreciate it.
Check that out.
Thank you, Jackhammer 23. Miss Reed became a new member. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Reed. Good to see you.
Thank you. The Scrapping Beauty. This panel is caring, critical, objective, and witty. I'm a fan, so thank you so much. Healthy Green Lifestyle. What do you think about Ibrahim Traore from Burkina Faso?
Was that question directed to Chuck?
It probably was. I mean, I know.
Because who is that?
He sound like a communist bliggity. With that name.
Let's see. I want to look it up real quick because you did do a super chat, so I don't want to just dismiss your comment. Let me just Google it real quick. But what I can promise you is that if I can't answer the question here within 15 seconds, then I'll research. I'll do some homework this week and then get back to you next week. Ibrahim
Traore from Burkina Faso.
Let's see. Ibrahim Traore is a military officer and politician who has served as the interim president since 2022. Took control in September 2022, casting so this is an African dude. You'll see him. It's blurry. Has sought to distance the country from its former colonial power, France, and played an instrumental role in founding the Alliance of Sahel States. Okay, this looks interesting. My ears always perk up when I hear throwing off the colonial powers, right? So yeah, I'll do my homework and get back to you next week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen this guy.
Yeah. And I'm sure if Chuck was here, he'll have an answer at the ready because he likes looking into stuff like that. So
thank you so much, Healthy Green Lifestyle. Thank you, Miss Ree, gifted Chad Jackson 5 memberships.
Thank you, Miss Ree.
Miss Ree, again, great show per usual. I love and miss my CTTC family.
CTTC.
Thank you, Miss
Thank
Ree.
you, Miss Ree. Rick Hamstead, thank you so much. Always a great show. God loves you all. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Alethea, thank you. Godly wisdom and understanding in this discussion tonight, as usual. By the way, my hubby overheard Stephen A. Smith and left the room. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you, Alethea. Thank you. Broski Bear, thank you to everyone on the panel for another great informative show. May God bless everyone on the panel and in the chat. Thank you so much, Broski Bear. Gregatron.
I haven't seen Broski Bear around in a minute.
I know.
Yeah, what's up, bro?
Unless I haven't been seeing you, welcome back. Good to see you. Always good to see Broski.
Gregatron, I'm waiting on the Uncle Tom 3 DVD. Any updates?
I mean, I guess you can consider the film I'm about to come out with as an Uncle Tom 3, the MLK project. Yeah, I mean, the next two films that I'm working on with the MLK project and another film called The Myth of Blackness, I guess you can consider those two films collectively as Uncle Tom Part 3. But I mean, it's just to let you guys all in on a little secret chat. It probably wasn't the greatest idea to name Uncle Tom Part 2, because in my opinion, that wasn't exactly the greatest marketing strategy. Because even though Uncle Tom 1 was a successful film, Uncle Tom 2 was something different. It didn't piggyback off of Uncle Tom 1 in any way, shape, or form. Where Uncle Tom 1 dealt mostly with kind of Black conservatism 101, Uncle Tom 2 was more of a history film. And so I think it was a mistake to call it Uncle Tom Part 2. And so, I mean, if you're trying to appeal to a niche audience, kind of fans who follow the Uncle Tom franchise, then okay, I get it. But if you're trying to appeal to a broader audience, it's not the greatest idea to call documentaries Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. I mean, I know that's what Dinesh D'Souza does, or I can see Dinesh D'Souza doing something like that. I'm not Dinesh D'Souza, and nor do I care to be Dinesh D'Souza. So I just don't think. I mean, anyway, let me not ramble. I know we're trying to close out the show, but yeah, I think that with the subject matter that we were kind of alluding to in Uncle Tom Part 2, you will see show its face in the next film project that I'm working on. The other film project that I will work on, and then Comrade Yuri, which will come out in September. You can see you will see a kind of continuation of the story even in that film, and that has nothing. The Comrade Yuri film doesn't even focus primarily on Black folks, but you will see a lot of the kind of psyop that took place over the course of the 20th century explained deeper in the Comrade Yuri film, which is a Malone Pictures project. And Malone Pictures, of course, is the firm that gave us Uncle Tom and Uncle Tom Part 2. So yeah, as far as Malone Pictures, I mean, my hat goes off to that firm. They do great work. A lot of stuff that I learned in terms of editing film and being a filmmaker myself comes from my time with Malone Pictures. I don't work with Malone Pictures right now. I'm independent, but I do highly recommend anything that comes out of Malone Pictures. So.
All right. Thank you, Gregatron. Will Doc, thanks so much for the wisdom you all share. Stephen A plays the middle too much. 100 men versus one gorilla. We all got. Well, yeah, 100 men going after gorilla, they would defeat the gorilla. I think the problem is who's going to be the first one to initiate it. That's 100 men could do it, but the first person is going to get so mauled and destroyed to where the 99 not going to want to go near the gorilla. GFB became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, GFB. DT, thank you so much for the super sticker. And K Dot, hi CTT, C team. Does your team need interns? We must be blowing up.
Well, I don't think we're on that scale yet, but I mean, that's something worth considering should we ever get there. I know Keisha's been blowing up lately. I see Blanche's channel growing, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yep, go subscribe, Keisha King. Go watch.
How much would you say your channel has grown in the past year, Blanche? Your YouTube channel?
In the past year, I mean, probably not that much. I got some advice from, April Chapman, so I'm gonna try this for 90 days and see if it grows the channel.
You're on a 90-day plan?
Yeah, 90-day plan. Go to followers and monetarily and with viewership. So we'll see.
Cool. And Keisha, yours has grown by what, about 1,000 in the past month?
Like 2,500.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
No, in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. Head spinner. Yeah.
You don't know what you did?
I don't know what I did for one particular video, but once that one came out, like it found the audience and they really like it. But it's the Carmelo Anthony stuff. Like,
Okay.
yeah, so that stuff people really love. I don't know why people, I mean, you know, I get why people are interested in the story, but every video I put out, it's just like it's really fascinating. I'm trying to sit back and analyze it a little bit to see so I can duplicate that,
Right.
with other things that I talk about too. But I'm definitely trying to ride this wave. Your girl has been at this for quite some time, and I'm like, okay, so trying to figure out what I know it's a big story, y'all. I'm not typically the one like, oh, let me go run and jump on this big story. I like to talk about things that I actually care about. So I'm trying to learn how to tie more stuff in to the bigger stories. To talk about the things that I like to talk about, the brainwashing, the cultness of it all, that stuff. So yeah, it's tough. But I want to shout out the Scrapping Beauty. I guess she's new. I think she's new to our channel, and she's just she is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think she's just now hearing about this MLK stuff. She's over here. It was rough. It reminded me of when I had my revelation on the MLK stuff. So yeah. Yeah, new to me, the MLK stuff, yes. So anyway, so shout out. My revelation came live on, I was live on the internet with Teach'em Chuck a few years back, and I was like, oh my, it was a lie. It was a lie.
Talking about with MLK?
Yeah, when I was learning, she said, yeah, it is a tough pill to swallow. It was hard, but Chad, Blanche, and Chuck, they're unforgiving. They was landing on me hard. They didn't care. They did not care. They didn't take it easy on me at all. They had no sympathy.
Worship God and not man. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. All right, folks, we will be back next week. Do go follow Chuck. You can find his information in the description. You can also find Keisha and Blanche, their information in the description as well. Please like this stream, share this stream. Let's get the algorithm to wake up and try to popularize this show and get the message out, get the word out. Yes. We're always going to bring it back to Christ unapologetically because again, he's the only one that has the words of eternal life, and so when it comes to the culture, we're going to cut through it and we're going to point to Christ. So do share this, do like this, maybe even drop a comment in the comment section after this live stream ends. We'll see you next time. God bless you all. Love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.